to pay attention to it.
Testing. 1, 2, 12.
As a matter of fact, there was a group chat and somebody said something and I said, well, she has bikes more. Oh, don't say that. She's come out and said it.
Looks like everything is in working order. It's other yellow hat guy here, back with another video. And today we have Alpha Dog Wolf in the building. We have Jamie hysterically laughing at him in the background.
Hi.
We have Vicky here on incognito mode. We have the Talking Flower, who has an amazing idea that we can barely hear. And he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then we have challenging today Latino Heat.
Latino Heat!
But he's more medium heat because he's going to get snuffed out today. Your defending champion and your favorite YouTuber. And if I'm not, what are you doing with your life? We're going for some belts tonight. I currently possess all of them. So,
in honor of WrestleMania tomorrow.
In honor of WrestleMania, we're doing Rakama Mania tonight here. So
We've been together for 6 months this week.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
I don't know.
So
did I survive or did she survive?
Did y'all survive?
we're going to make this interesting. We're not going to do races tonight because we're not racist. We're going to do battles.
Okay.
They've added a new Babam mode where you pop the balloons. That's finally in the game.
What's up?
And that's what we're going to do.
Oh, baby.
So, y'all go ahead and get your controllers. Those of you who want to participate.
Y'all have play? Yeah, play.
She's already playing.
Get a controller.
She's player one.
Well, she's reaching for the wrong joystick. So.
My hands are in the air.
It's supposed to be multicolored, not just one plain black.
Ah,
That's pickle.
It's supposed to be alpha.
I mean, you're close.
Damn, Alpha.
I would show you the device that she's holding, but it would green screen out on the camera.
It really would. All you'd see is the eyes.
Mm-hmm. It would be like if the lights were turned out and you just saw Alpha. You would just see the eyes only.
Damn. Really?
It would be me too.
Damn, Leonard.
Did you see that thing on Twitter where somebody said that his...
Seriously.
Y'all need to get your own room. That's Jamie. That's Jamie and Alpha in the background.
That was not us.
That was not us.
That is so not cool.
That his member was the same size as a Glade can. And
Glade can?
A Glade can.
The spray can?
Yes.
Who? Alpha?
No,
Damn.
no, there was somebody on Twitter who said his member was the same size as a Glade can.
Well, shit. Good for them.
And then he made an alternate account and proved it.
Mm.
And then others followed.
What in the Mike Matei is going on here?
Now,
So-
mind you, I didn't
so
see
they
any
were
of this.
literally
I read
having a-
somebody talking about
Contest.
because
Sure.
I don't use the Nazi app.
The Nazi app. X.
Yeah.
Okay. If you are on X right now watching us live, like, comment, subscribe, share.
But I had saw somebody talking about it on like Instagram or something, and so I was just like, what?
So it's 2 controllers. We need a couple more of y'all to join in.
Go ahead. Get the thing.
Get the things. like being number 3, right?
Yes.
So, and that one, okay. I'll let you jump in.
I'm trying. Alright.
There you go.
I got a Super Nintendo, Vicky.
Cool.
Do you want to play Super Nintendo?
That sounds overtly sexual.
Right in front of her boyfriend.
No, I mean tomorrow I have a Super
I'm
Nintendo.
gonna say, Leonard's gonna go ahead and.
I have that.
Somehow your controller conked out.
Yeah, you lost connection.
Nobody's talking to you. Calm down.
Don't be mean.
What are you looking
I
for?
have a Super
My
Nintendo Mini.
glasses.
I don't remember the last time I
Yes,
seen you with them
I
on.
don't
Yeah, when I came in, you weren't even wearing
I
glasses.
know.
You
I
sure you
can't
had them over there in
remember.
the kitchen?
No, I can't remember if I left
I
him
think
here
these are dead.
or if I put them in here.
Joy-Cons
That's all.
don't have any life.
Well, you can grab the ones off the system.
Is that yours? Yeah, that's you. My name. Because you need a charge.
Oh, it knocked the third person out.
No, with Jamie.
Okay, now she's back in. There you go.
Alright. I'll just deal with the
Oh,
Joy-Cons
I
without.
just, yeah, I did put them in my purse. Just couldn't remember if I put them in my purse or if I left them here.
All right, so we're finally
I
going.
just, yeah.
We screw it to the camera.
Yeah, I know. I've been looking at buying like a necklace so I can hang them on it, because I can't do the granny like things on it. Just can't.
Because I'm like, I can see fine up close, so I can, you know, when I'm just diddling around with my phone, I'm fine. But when I actually have to do stuff, pay
Yep.
attention. Chloe, or we can move down.
No, it's okay. I got an idea.
The lamp.
Yeah,
Oh, I can go over there. Oh.
no worries.
Somebody, you hit the wrong button.
Oh,
Oh no, you hit the right button. Sorry. We're going to battle. I don't remember this music. Oh, look at that Wario outfit. That was pretty cool.
That's an old one already. I think we got all of them.
You might have unlocked all the Wario outfits.
hit X. Hit X, and they'll sort them all by character. You'll see them.
Cool.
I don't remember the DK looking like that, but maybe we just haven't played it so long.
Yeah, that's that new model of DK.
Yeah, it's from is that the
Yeah, from the one from the Seth Rogen version.
movie?
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm saying was he always like this when the game came out in June? Okay. So I just forgot.
That was one of the comments people made initially
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, they made him look like the one in the movie.
If you hit Y, you'll see the stats.
That's new.
Alright, let me choose.
I'm just so undecisive. It feels like there's so many more Luigi outfits that I've ever unlocked. Since I'm always Mario, there's only like so many that were freed up.
I don't even remember.
So, while I was watching the movie, I realized there's a few characters that they still haven't added on here.
What do you mean? The Mario Galaxy movie versus this?
Yeah, I mean, well, in the Mario, history.
Okay, who?
The Toad,
Captain Toad? I mean,
the
which?
King Toad,
Oh,
the main character the main villain for Mario 2.
Wart? Yeah.
They
Okay.
haven't added Wart. The Phantasm. They haven't added
Yeah.
that.
It'd be hard to make that a character in here, though. The mask.
I mean, if they made a Boo,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is those characters aren't.
the Rat.
Mauser could be in here.
I mean, you already have. You know, what's her name? The one that sucks up all the.
Birdo. Yeah, Birdo, people. There's something about Birdo that's charming, whereas Wart and Mauser and other characters, they've been like left behind.
Yeah.
Birdo has been in other Mario games since Mario 2. Those other characters, not so much. Wart, that's the first time people even talked about him in like 20 years.
I saw him and I was like, oh my god!
And the fact that he has this Latino voice now, it's like, that's. I was like, any voice you thought he had now, it's erased. That's. If he
Who
doesn't.
was it?
I don't remember his name. Luis Guzman or something like that?
Oh, Luis Guzman.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Dude, you know who Luis Guzman is? That dude is hilarious.
He was,
He's,
he was,
Wednesday.
yeah, Wednesday's dad.
Yeah,
Gomez.
That's who that is.
Michael.
So we're gonna do the best of 3 rounds just as a trial to see how it is.
Okay.
We have 4 teams. All of us are on our own teams. Calm difficulty. We'll start out with easy, and then we'll
I'd leave it at
select-
random.
Random?
Yeah.
Was
Okay.
Oh,
No, everyone's on their own team.
okay.
Now we can switch it up. If you don't, Wario doesn't want to be in the Bowser. Like the red team over here looks like a Peach one, and Peach is on a DK team, and the green looks like it's Waluigi.
Peach.
It's a star.
All right, fine.
Waluigi is
Blue is a Bowser.
Yeah.
Yeah, star.
What is yellow?
Donkey Kong.
Okay, I see it now.
I feel like Kari should be here in a second. I feel like I hear a door open.
Somebody just closed the door.
Yeah. Yep. Good evening.
Hello.
What's up?
Hi.
It's the young lady that's part of a quadruple.
Started up.
They just
I did a
can't
little
get
trash
enough of
talking.
it.
And
It's the lips.
Get out, everybody.
No,
Everybody.
because I have all the
Wants
bells
to add me.
Moving
now,
down.
so he's wanting to get one of these back.
What up, Car?
What's going on?
And then
Folks-
folks wanting to play Killer Instinct on
What's up?
Xbox.
Okay. Killer Instinct going on?
So we have Ann in the house, and then we have Kari here as well.
Anything for tomorrow?
Fall over.
Y'all want to dress up like wrestler? You could.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Any wrestler?
Any wrestler you want.
Any costume?
Any costume you want. That'd be Nacho Libre, man. I don't care.
I mean, if I was built like Bianca, I could get. If I was Bianca, Jade.
Have a hoodie if you need it.
Oh, I brought my blanket and Kari's.
I need to get that Undertaker jacket. The one that looks like
Yeah.
Skyrim.
Because I keep going.
So I'm not sure what's going on here. We have the teams, and I guess when I said 4 teams, is everybody pushing A?
I'm pushing A.
Let me go.
Because if not, we have to turn the team thing off.
Why are you gonna get like 4 NPCs
Okay,
per
the arrows are still on, so we're going to flip it. So, yeah, I think it's just Peach is left.
So Jamie, if you want to hit the A button.
It's like a Nutty Buddy, but it's like a cream
Oh,
pop.
the Nutty Buddy.
Oh, so look what's happened.
Oh.
We all have support from the other characters.
Oh,
That's what's up.
So we can try it this way, and if we don't like it, turn the teams off where it's just the 4 of us and no comm.
Sounds good to me.
Y'all enjoy it. Kari, what are you doing?
We got snacks.
Yeah, there's snacks. Help yourself. So like Rice Krispie treats and stuff like that over there. So this is our first time playing this.
This is an update.
Yeah.
Is that what?
Update.
A lot of people are like, where is the balloon battle? You know, back in the day you had the 3 balloons. Now you on this it looks like you've got like 5.
I forget how. There it is. I can't remember how to launch. I haven't played this game in such a long time.
But I don't actually remember who all was on my team.
I don't remember either. I'm just looking for you guys. I would guess just follow your colors.
Dang.
Oh, Daisy got it. Somebody. Oh, it said got him.
Oh, someone's supposed to pop the balloon.
Yeah, you're supposed to pop everybody's balloons. That's not on your team.
Well, I thought it was going to be a race.
No,
Wait, it's not a race?
no.
It's just straight up kick ass.
How do you know who's on your team?
You don't.
You do, the colors.
Well, yeah, the colors,
Balloon
but what I'm
colors.
saying it. So whoever has blue is in the lead with 6. Oh, dang. Ooh, that was close.
Gotcha.
What I needed though was like, hey, if I'm on yellow and all my team members could just be Donkey Kong, right? They can all just be that, and if you're whatever yours or all that, that would help me know who's who. Because part of what's holding me back is, oh, that cost me a balloon. Going out of bounds costs you a balloon.
Oh, that's crazy. They changed that rule.
Last 15 seconds. Oh, shit. Boom. Oh, who's... Damn it, Jamie.
No, that's not Jamie. Me and you tied.
Oh, that's right. Jamie's not the yellow one. Okay.
I can't tell who's who.
But it gave you the bump. It put you at 6 and me at 5.
Is it because I have more balloons?
No. So
No, because you had 3 balloons.
So you had more than me, but my team members had the same amount combined with your team members.
Right, but I think the fact that I had...
No, me and you still tied. What I'm telling you is you had 6 individual hits, is what it's saying. I had 5 hits. The other yellow colors are on my team, and they total is 13. Yours, Dolphin, Toad, and Yoshi, total is 13 combined with yours.
Oh shit, and I did hit my dolphin.
I went out of bounds and cost myself 1.
You hit your own player.
I didn't realize.
So Jamie and Lakatu are the only ones on her team that got points.
See,
I was just trying to stay away from people.
Alpha, Toadette, and with a W, Wiggler contributed to their team.
I didn't realize I had to actually go after people. I was trying to like stay away from people so they wouldn't bust my balloon.
So we can switch it up to where there's no teams and it's just us, if that's easier.
That might be easier because I had no idea what was going on.
But in a nutshell, that's...
Carter, do you want to play instead of me?
Meat and chips.
So are the NPCs supposed to be popping other people's balloons?
correct.
yeah.
But why didn't they?
They did.
They
We
look
just
like
pop
they only
more.
pop one. Okay.
Couple of them only pop. But here's what happens. Let's say I hit Jamie 3 times. But somebody else hits me. It subtracts my hits when I get hit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
So what it says is between me and Javi, we were killing the red and the green. So let's run that back. Let's leave it off this time. Let's go to battle. Let's just run it back as another example and see. So instead of teams, let's do no teams, okay? Calm difficulty, no calm. Course selection, let's leave it open. And then let's do the 3 rounds. So we'll leave all those on. And now we'll pick where we want to go. So what's interesting to y'all?
I think the best course would probably be the change zone.
The desert?
Yeah, because there's no way of getting away. Because it's just the Coliseum.
Alright. We'll run with that. I was going to look for somewhere basic. Let's check it out. And if you're watching, the name of this video is no typo. It says, I thought it was a doctor's outfit.
Wait, what?
We love the Red Cross.
So no one's going to the Dream Asia Festival? Even with the new rules that they got?
What new rules they got?
That nothing can be priced over $15?
No shit.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference.
A huge difference.
Yeah, they said, I
Because
guess.
they took advantage of that.
Oh, last year? Yeah. I just want these crispy bao buns I got last year. That's all I want.
I didn't really get to try much. I had like a stir fry. And that was it.
I had
There was too many lines. I was like, screw it.
I had the tang food, the crispy bao bun. Party was gone last year.
Whoa, some of
Sounds
that.
like it's more popular than the Lexington Barbecue Festival.
Oh, it's a lot of people. A lot of people.
And I
Still in the
guess-
same spot, isn't it, Brian Winston?
Yeah, and they said this time they're gonna do the time control, but I'm like, how do you do that?
What do you mean?
Because I know last year they were supposed to do it in time groups. Like your ticket was for this time.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm
For the
like,
morning and the afternoon?
but I'm like, if these people don't leave,
Right.
all it does is add more people coming in. So are you gonna clear everybody to be like, hey, everybody gotta get out now,
Yeah.
so we can like,
Because when I went in the afternoon,
yeah.
and it was still freaking packed. There might have been a line, but it was so packed in there.
Because I think when I went, we went like late afternoon. We were there until the evening. The line was long. It was down the street. So I was like, I don't know. But I still kind of want to go.
Damn it. Well, it's like that, huh?
Yeah, you gotta turn down the heat.
Ooh.
Get you. I'm gonna get you. Damn it.
Oh.
Got me again.
That hurt.
3, man. You got me 3.
Damn, I couldn't use them.
Alpha won that one.
Yeah, he did. I was trying to find somebody at the last second.
I
Couldn't.
thought this would have been an easier one, but I guess it's.
There's too much going on.
Yeah, he did definitely the smaller space.
Oh, you don't.
You lucky. You was like that pickle. You was invisible.
Jimmy like,
Damn, really?
you like, nah, I'm good.
All right, Alpha, since you want it, you pick the next one.
I'm like,
Oh, I can't move it. Okay, so big donut.
big donut?
Did you guys ever play the AVGN game? The 8-bit game again?
Not again, I think.
I did.
Him and Bryce?
I actually beat that boss.
Nice.
When you, as you notice, when you get down to your last life, they give you the little pickle.
Yeah.
I took advantage of that.
Yeah, there's Alpha's pickle, by the way.
Why is it gotta be my pickle?
Wait, they sent you a
That's
pickle?
what Jamie said.
Jamie said it's about accurate. So.
Damn.
Oh,
son.
wow. Okay.
Of course I would say that. Mommy, I gotta brag on
This thing is huge.
That's what she
That's
said.
what she said.
it. Literally.
Oh, sorry, gang, I won't be able to actually use the annotation since I'm playing.
You know, with everybody saying that they're not going this year, maybe that'll make it.
Oh.
Make it less people?
Yes.
I doubt it. I think people are saying it, but they're still gonna go.
They're like, I'm not going this year. They said they're only doing 4,000 tickets per session. That's still too many.
Yeah.
I'm confused. So me and Jamie hit each other. That's what happened. Because somehow I have a red balloon. Look at that. I have a red
I
balloon.
don't have any balloons. You
Wait.
hit me.
But you took one of mine.
I don't have them.
No, what I'm saying is I started out with 5 red or 5 yellow ones. Now I have a red one.
How do you get your balloon?
And then she took it back. She hit me.
Oh.
Well, I didn't take anything because I don't have your balloon. Your balloon is gone.
Got him.
Oh.
No,
Who
I
hit
have
you?
3 balloons.
Well, somebody else hit you.
I got you.
I think this is the time to stay away from people. Or do you actually have to hit
You
somebody?
have to hit people to win.
Oh. Well, that sucks.
I know.
Well, Jamie's currently winning, so.
Is she?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
She's got 2. Damn.
What the fuck?
Got a
It's
minute.
not on purpose.
She was like, I don't
So you don't win from having the most balloons. You win by getting the most hits.
Ooh.
Dang.
Wait, are
Ah! Damn it, Alpha.
is everybody going the same way? No, they're coming towards you, Jamie.
I get hit
Did anybody?
again.
No.
Yeah, Alpha just hit me like twice. There.
I went from worst to first.
Oh, wow. Okay. Here they come again. Get him, Jamie, get him.
Oh, shit.
Oh! Just missed me.
I lost that one.
Damn. Alpha won again.
Yeah.
You ran away with that.
He lucky, man.
Good job,
Wow, Luigi
baby.
got 6 hits?
Mhm.
You won, that means I won.
That's right.
There you go.
She gets
Your
it.
money is my money, and my money's mine.
That is awesome.
All right, bro, pick the last one.
Oh boy. Alright, so I gotta pick the last one.
You keep winning.
Let's do
Salty.
Momo Meadow.
Yay!
That sounds like
I
Brrr.
like that one.
Selects the cow.
I like the cow.
Holy cow.
That sounds fun. That sounds great.
It reminds me of home.
Countryside.
He likes the country girl.
Not a country girl. Not a city girl.
I'm not like that.
Suburbanite?
No.
You a suburbanite?
No, I'm military brat. So they're really moving in the country.
the city too, though, right?
City, suburbia, and country.
Or you like city?
Kind of like suburbia.
I mean now.
I like the city.
When you were there with your friends?
No. When I was younger?
It was crazy because somehow I got a credit for a hit on Alpha as well, I guess.
Yeah, they hit each other.
So what?
Oh, you guys hit each other.
Squat. I don't even know where the hell you guys are.
You know, it shows everybody where they are on the map. You know.
So, Kari, you want to go to the Dream Asia Festival?
How much are tickets?
Oh!
God.
$40.
Huh?
40?
How much? How much?
I think it's 40.
That's VIP.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's like 25.
No. It's 12.
No! How do they keep giving him stars and they're giving me like bananas?
I don't know.
Maybe Russ is doing it there.
VIP gives you all day entry.
You can give me a pickle later, baby.
Oh!
If I'm lucky. Maybe the garage.
Oh, snap.
Well, I just cleaned it out a little bit, so.
Alright. And it's nice weather.
You want to hit with that Cardi B line.
Make me gag, make me chuck.
So!
I would like to go see Cardi B in concert.
I would
Wasn't she just here?
She probably was.
She was just here like a couple days ago.
I would love to see her. I hear that
Dang it.
concerts are fire.
Screw you, Alpha.
I would go.
I would definitely go. I want to see that ass shake too.
Hell yeah.
I didn't get shit this time.
No!
I don't think
Damn
this
it,
is my
Mario!
Y'all hitting each other again?
Somebody-
Nah, I didn't get a chance to hit him. Last second.
Dude, are you
Warning!
nuts?
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
I forgot about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just couldn't get to it as soon as y'all were talking about lusting over her BBL.
I got a nice
Over
BBL.
here.
I'll go see it. I'll pay to go see it.
I'm ready to go see that.
She can put me on stage.
Cardi B?
Yeah.
Put all three.
Oh,
All right.
there you go.
I'll be like, let me
Alpha
It's your
is the
boy.
winner.
Video daddy.
I'll be like, let
I
me.
had it to him.
I'm like, let me up there, Cardi.
He earned it.
There we
My
go.
baby won.
Here we go.
Hell yeah.
That for the first time.
In a long time.
Love you, baby.
I think it's been since January, isn't it?
Oh!
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, because when I came back, you held it. And then I whooped you.
Oh,
It
there
took
we
it
go.
from me.
Because our 2 tickets.
Ah, but who got it now, though? It's all
Oh.
about who the current title.
Yeah.
We ain't talking about the past. Yesterday is done, son.
I'll give you your props. Mine
Plus,
taking
the
it today.
VIP tickets is giving you like discounts on the food. I don't see the purpose.
Alright, so you got your new winner there, Alpha Dog Wolf.
Woo.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
My man.
My woman.
Oh, unless you.
But I don't feel bad. That was something new we did, so
Yeah.
it ain't like.
That was fun.
Yeah, we gotta figure
I
out.
suck.
We have to have a better system of that. Because I feel like it could be more
It's too
fun.
big, man. I think
That's what she said.
Yeah, Vicky. Woo.
Like,
the arena is too big.
don't make her blush now.
It's so huge.
Hobby, Jesus. Leonard? Woo.
It's enormous.
It'll be bigly.
It's a different kind of thruple over there.
this rate, she'll never get through that crochet.
Nope. It's gonna keep staying on Princess Jasmine forever.
Ooh, Jasmine.
Yeah, that's what she's working.
You know, with those colors, you can actually do an E-order. Have you done
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Could do Eeyore.
Yeah, I've been working through this book.
Oh, they got an Ursula.
They don't. It's only princesses.
Oh, book of oh yeah, no villains.
They're for my friends.
None of her villains.
The best little girl. She's so cute.
So are we done with this, or people want to play more of this?
too.
Jamie definitely.
Oh, you had a
I don't think
Mickey
people
Mouse?
want to play keyboard.
Okay.
I think we should do
That
something
is
else.
crazy.
So to wrap up, yeah, I think that's the best one she's done. Is that one?
Crochet shirt and everything.
They've all been great.
So I'm saying that's the best of them. That's what I'm saying.
Gloves.
I love
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I like the Yoshi.
My
I
Wario's
like the
pretty
Luma
good.
The
too.
tail at the end. The tail curls up and all that.
I
Wow.
mean, I like the baby stars. They're so cute. They were in the movie. They were like,
I like my Wario.
So to wrap up this, what I was saying was that whole system of the computer helping you. It's too much going on, and maybe if you could lower, like, oh, you have one partner helping you, and you have one partner helping you.
See, I think that might help because the arenas are too big
Yeah,
for just 4.
and you spend most of the match just looking for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's too, like, however many.
Well, I mean, let's say you can add 2 partners
16. So
to an
16
arena like that.
many.
You're still.
I think this would be funner if you actually had the maximum. Was it 24 people, whatever?
Yeah.
If
Like if y'all were also playing with us, and they didn't have a cap on how many people could play, that would be a game changer. Or if we split it up and was like, hey, 4 of us versus the other 4, and you could do that. Well, I'm just saying, I'd have more fun with human people playing, and we had a big group, and we were all lost. Then
Yeah.
the human people are lost, and the computer knows exactly where.
You want to do the feud?
Yeah, we'll jump to the
What's
feud.
another- My algorithm is so fucked up.
6, 7.
We
can either do teams or
I'm getting
split up. All right, so we'll end this, and we'll be back with some Family Feud. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and we'll see you in the next one.
He's on the way.
Yes.
Don't forget the Dom.
Like, Dom, sub.
Where is Joe Bro?
He's in Nashville. He ain't coming all the way over here. We'll see him tomorrow.
We'll see him tomorrow.
But now I have a specific type of freak fuck up weird shit.
What?
It's now transgender surprise. So girlfriend fakes pregnancy, and as she's giving labor, surprises husband and man she was cheating on that she's not really a she, she's a he.
Well, how does the birth still happen?
There's no baby.
Oh, that's
She
right.
Shit.
rips it off, saying surprise.
What the hell are you
Oh.
watching?
This is just shit that's on my algorithm now because I've been watching those fruit
Instagram.
things. Instagram.
It's fruit baby.
It just keeps the fruit baby things. First it was the fruits that were cheating on each other, and then it was,
And they all be cheating.
and they all be cheating.
What do you have to say to that, Flower?
Focus. Let's take a breath together.
I know.
Yeah, dude. It is
Woosah.
getting crazy.
People charge
And now it's like,
$33.
it's went from fruits cheating on each other to
Their
like,
wedding guest,
when we
right?
were just talking, like
Which I
urine
think is
and,
not bad.
and
Little
blood
charge fee, little
and
charge fee.
semen
But look at
and
these
different
lovely
bodily
outfits.
sweat and tears and stuff. And
Absolutely
then now
not.
it's
First of all, I don't
sneakers.
like
I'm
her
seeing
dress.
sneakers instead of
Nor
fruit.
this
It's
thing.
just,
But
it's getting
You might just want to
part
go
like that.
not interested, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it'll come off.
All right. He wanted to do the feud. I was thinking somebody was going to do a 1-2 switch, but
I'm down for one.
we can do a quick game of feud, and it can be everybody just on a team against the computer, even though there's only so many controllers, or we can split into teams and everybody can play. How do y'all want to do that?
Why don't we do girls versus guys?
I'm actually gonna head out, but y'all do whatever.
So you just came to get that one trophy and was like, I'm out.
I
Wow.
was really planning on being out at 9:30 anyway.
Okay.
So
Yeah, he's gotta get
I just happened to get the trophy
So
also.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You gotta
We got 3 and 3.
Put his mama's chickens away.
Oh, you gotta go put the chickies to sleep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How far is that?
She's about 20 minutes away.
That don't mean you can't come back.
He will be 5 minutes from home.
That don't mean you can't come back.
This is also true.
I am good. I gotta be back at my mom's house in the morning. Somebody's buying some stuff from her house.
No doubt. No doubt.
But I still got my wifey, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And your new wife.
Oh, shavers.
I don't get that. We should. How do you do party battle? Get into teams against each other with just one controller.
Q-tips or the paramedics.
How do you?
Oh,
How,
I've seen
how is
her
that even
Q-tip
possible?
ones, and I'm like,
Can you do that?
That's what it's offering me. It's saying single, one controller password. Oh, one controller per team.
There you
huh? I'm so confused.
There you go.
All right. So I don't know who wants to be on whose team.
Wait. Are we splitting up again?
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought we were just one team.
yeah.
Well, 1, 2, 3, 4,
No, I
5.
thought it was.
I mean, I guess we can do that.
The PC.
All right,
PC.
we'll do that.
Can we do 6 people?
No, it'll be 5. I think. That's why I went and did the.
Me and white
Two
people
groups.
work together.
Because I am super hot.
You say you're super hot.
Oh no!
All right.
I forgot tonight is the Drag Race finale.
Was that Jamie's character?
The Jolly. That was.
Because we changed them up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that one you?
Yeah.
So Alpha's not playing, so we'll leave him out.
Middle one's Vicky, I think, isn't it?
That one? No, the
blonde.
blonde one. And then we'll add somebody as Kari.
Add an afro.
I hate that we can't have another row with characters. Kari, you're gonna be this one. Unless you want to pick one of the others. You can be Alpha's character.
That guy.
Okay.
DEI Fridays.
Can't believe
They closed all of them? I guess
What?
that's why they demolished that one. That was on Wendover.
When they closed that?
Well, they said they're hiring 140 people over there.
Oh, the new one, that new place.
I think it opens May 20th. It's Raising Cane's.
Yeah.
I think it opens May 22nd.
There's one on Wendover.
That's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
Raising
Yeah.
Cane's.
Okay.
Raising Cane's is gross.
Never been here. My
Never
brother
been here.
loves it.
I never ate it.
I've never had it.
It's for the unseasoned.
The sauce is phenomenal though.
Which is why they love it. It's the sauce that makes the Raising Cane. Like if I can't eat the chicken without the sauce.
For the unseasoned. That's one of the worst.
And they'll be playing against our
That ooh.
Lane is actually speechless.
I am because I'm sure there's a number of viewers that are unseasoned. And
A number of viewers that are unseasoned.
Oh
The
god.
2 white women here are not unseasoned.
Yeah, Vicky's got Latino in her, dude. She got Latin food.
I'm going
At
home.
least 3 times.
I didn't say anything.
Just
Alright, Vicky, I'm out.
Al was like, I'm out.
it's a fact.
Yeah, that was the ending joke right there.
Baby, don't forget get your chicken.
Be sure to buzz
Yeah, I'm
in.
getting it.
We've got an
Hey,
answer
thank
to the
you.
survey
All
question.
right,
Oh,
so let
bro.
Tina meet you tomorrow. All right, I'll
I'll see you tomorrow, man.
What to do.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Family will play or pass the round.
Notice the men didn't say anything.
Yeah, we was nothing else needed to be said.
At a game. Name a relative
I mean-
you wouldn't want to be sitting next to.
It's just wrong.
Mother. Oh.
Interesting answer.
Everybody, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's tasted the rainbow.
Our survey says,
You know?
mother.
Huh?
Oh, so something's worse than that.
Grandma.
Not a bullseye.
Grandma?
Well, what's the
Granddad.
question?
Got some
What?
food for thought?
What relative do you not want to be sitting beside?
Oh, you're great.
Oh,
Oh.
Well, who is cute?
I was hitting the A button trying to.
Grandparents, yep.
All right.
Your siblings.
John, baby.
Love you,
Answer
baby.
accepted.
Love you too.
Text
Have a
you
safe
when you
drive.
get home.
Uh-huh.
Grandma.
Yeah.
Grandma was not number one.
Good try, but it doesn't mean
Your sister,
you're
then?
already there.
Probably
So,
dad.
what are you gonna
Siblings.
do? Play or pass?
Parents.
Miss you.
I love you.
See,
Love you.
I
hate
miss you
what they
too.
do.
All right.
Alright,
Good
that's
night.
Get your
Miss you.
feuding face
Like,
on.
I miss
It's
you.
your go.
I'm still here.
Still here.
Hey,
Sorry, you mind getting that for him? It's gonna.
Could it be up there? Let's find out.
I got it. Hang on.
Sibling was number one.
See?
Perfect.
I was gonna say I do not want to be sitting next to my brother. Yes,
What
I'm
is this cat head?
Oh, I don't want to say it because then they'll hear me.
Who'll hear you?
Say it with
They'll hear us.
Unseasoned.
Oh, I know that.
Let's see if that's a good answer.
No, they'll hear us.
Father-in-law.
They cheat.
Oh, all right. Way to go, kiddo.
Mother-in-law? Mother?
If you're on a kiss
I was
cam
thinking-
at a game, name a relative you wouldn't want to be sitting next to.
No, but does that count?
no.
I mean, because if you got...
I see where you're going.
Why is
with
it all
this.
male characters?
Let's check the board.
Nah.
Oh, okay.
Uncle.
Wouldn't it be the match of the
Hear
others?
that noise? That's a strike.
This is not our team, is it?
All right, let's hear it. Yep. Is that one of the remaining answers?
Why is aunt up there but not uncle?
Aunt.
Because it's not. Wait, what?
Good job.
Because some of these
the
people
that
are like, oh, so that's
Son,
my uncle and make
The
out.
daughter.
people that answer these questions are in
An answer.
the
All right.
mountains.
So grandpa works, but grandma doesn't.
Grandma does. It's already there.
I came across this family that apparently
I'd be getting
is nothing
ready
but
if I were you.
incest.
Which one?
Like
Like they asked this question in West Virginia.
It's your
Yeah,
go.
they did.
What do you think?
If you live in West Virginia, like
Kiss
comments.
cam. Okay. Child. Your child.
Are you sure about that? Did our survey say it? Father.
I would hope so.
The other one's a child. That's me.
Oh
'Cause they've already
no,
voted.
because they would
Kiss
just kiss
cam at a
they
game.
would just kiss them on the
Name
cheek
a
or something.
relative you wouldn't want to be sitting next to.
But you have to.
Cousin?
Nah, that's West Virginia. They're okay with that.
All righty
No,
then.
I've seen them okay with
No,
that.
I don't want
Much
to be.
more.
I don't not want to be. I don't want to kiss my cousin. Mother-in-law.
That's what I said. There had to be
Oh, yeah.
some matching ones. As the uncle, I don't know. Maybe it just took the top 6 answers and uncle
Here's
was
how the
under
scores
uncle.
are shaping up so far. All right, feuders, that's one round in the can. Let's see what a win.
At least that was only 95 points.
All right, Jamie. You'll press the button. You gotta figure it out.
I want 2 contestants to come
No.
and play. There's 6 answers up there. Buzz in first to answer. Get ready. We've got answers from 100 people for this question. Name something you should never try to get off of while it's moving.
Oh,
You're
a
first.
train.
Your spouse.
Good in you.
Airplane.
It's up there.
So, yeah.
Good. Okay.
Come on, ride that train
Survey said,
and ride it.
I'm sorry.
train.
Come on.
Which one?
Oh,
That's at the tippy
No.
top of the board. Pass or play?
Next.
You can hold it.
no, are we passing or playing?
Play.
Oh, you want to pass or play?
He said play.
Play.
No.
This could
Just
be
give
your
a
shot
refund
for
for
a
that
comeback.
one.
Let's go.
If they don't have any
Vroom vroom.
other power aid, like
Car.
So what's your
red,
guess
blue, or
gonna be?
purple.
You want me to put car?
Yeah, it's put car.
All right, thank you so much.
That's what you think, huh?
That's what he said.
Is it up there?
What was the
Horse.
question?
Car.
What would you not want to jump? What moving thing do you not want to jump out of? Horse.
A bike.
It's up to you.
Plane.
Bike.
I'm gonna put Vicky here.
Yeah.
You? Why don't you just type it in?
Bike.
Motorcycle?
That plane. That plane.
The plane. The
A
plane.
horse.
I said airplane.
Here we go then.
I mean,
Did
but people
anyone
jump
in
out
the
of
survey
planes
say
because they skydive.
this? Motorbike.
Or a regular bike.
Oh, it's not there. And that means you've got yourself a
Boat.
strike.
Roller coaster.
Oh,
Roller coaster's good.
What's your
but
answer?
I don't think roller coasters up there.
Horse.
What are you picking?
A horse.
What you saying,
Oh, I said
car?
roller coaster.
Roller coaster.
There it is.
Oh, it's in there,
Okay.
so maybe yes.
Let's see if you're right.
Number 6.
Roller coaster.
Oh.
Nice.
Okay.
It's on the board.
Well. Oh, Jamie said try horse.
On the, it's
Name something you should never try to get off of while it's moving.
I'm gonna still put plane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna be mad. But
No. Plane.
what she said makes sense though. Like, hey, people do skydiving.
Survey said plane.
Oh, no, put bus.
Good
for me.
work.
Okay.
Go think of all those safety things, the different things that
There's
get
two
on.
still remaining.
Oh, yeah. Roller coaster definitely got that.
Definitely. We already have car, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's try it. Will that be one of the missing answers?
Skateboard.
Bus.
Oh.
Boat.
That's your second strike right there.
Ooh. You gotta be careful.
There's only two answers left on the board.
I don't think boat would be a good one because it always moves with the waves.
Yeah, you don't want to jump off of it.
Well, that's true.
What do we got?
Boat.
Boat. Put boat.
Yeah.
Boats and hoes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Our survey said
I'm sorry. The ADHD just keeps
What?
Wow, we lost.
The boat always
This should have been there.
moves.
looks like the other family has a chance to steal.
So what are they gonna say?
I don't know.
That cat head is really
It's really bothering
This
you.
family gets just one answer. They'll
Watch
steal
too many
now.
horror movies. Thinking like The
Is
Purge.
it there?
That's what it
If
is.
it is, you've scored a steal. If not, the points go
Squid
straight
Games
to
and
the
all that. I
other
was just
side.
thinking of.
is that like Pink Panther? They want
Tram.
Pink Panther?
That's a train.
Let's see if it's there.
That's the same
Come
shit.
on, ride that tram
Oh, Subway.
and ride it. Come on.
Thank you.
Oh!
Thank
That's
God.
not the one.
Boat should have been up there.
The points go to this family.
Should have been up there.
So what did we miss this time? In at 6.
Is it a horse?
It's
Stuck with
Damn
horse.
it. Should have stuck a horse.
Bicycle.
Bicycle.
And bike. I said bike.
Oh, because
Let's
we put
find out who's in
motorbikes.
charge.
I'm telling you, here's what you're saying.
The gap is getting
Well, the
smaller.
other team didn't get
All
it.
I'm saying.
We had them right the whole time.
Should have stuck with what we went. Bike.
Still losing even though we won.
All right.
We're losing.
Yeah.
Double points.
Oh, did they win the other? Oh, I didn't know we went through a whole round already.
All right, people,
2
come
rounds.
here and do your
Alright,
best.
Susie.
Oh, that's you, card, isn't it? That's not your character?
I want you to give me 4 answers to this one. Time to raise the stakes. We're doubling the points. We got 100 people to answer the following question. Name a word that rhymes with yummy.
Dummy.
Fingers, my friend. Feeling confident?
I would have easily went with tummy.
I think it's dummy,
Got it.
but
Mummy.
Please be tummy.
The survey
Sounds like a mummy.
says
crummy,
tummy.
bummy,
Yes!
That's
Mummy.
tummy.
Y'all want to play?
mummy. Yeah, play
Are you
it.
gonna play or are you gonna
Let's
pass?
You said pass.
No.
Which one are we gonna go with, dummy or mummy?
I don't know.
I think mummy is up there, whether or not it's
Oh, we're
number.
not
Great
next.
answer.
I know,
Yeah.
but we gotta be ready. Oh, Vicky's
Yeah,
ready. But we
Vicky's
gotta be
next.
ready.
Yeah. I want to say.
You got anything for us?
Mummy.
What are you picking?
Oh, gummy.
Ooh, gummy's good.
Yeah, yes.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Say,
All right.
I already have one.
Let's see it. Gummy.
gummy bears.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's up there.
A huge drop off to 11.
it really is.
I'm gonna need your
All right,
guess.
Car.
Dummy.
Yeah. She's also slang for pacifier.
Understood. Is it up there? Let's hope so.
Yes.
The last one has to be mummy,
Mummy.
right?
Really there.
Mummy. We're gonna go mummy.
Mummy.
I would say mummy.
Yeah, like, cause it's
Got an answer
also
for me?
like a mom. And
Mummy?
it's also
Mummy?
like
Mummy?
Brendan
Mummy?
Fraser. A
Mom.
Mummy.
Mom.
Mummy.
You, yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Will this make a clean sweep?
Yes.
Let's find out.
Yes!
That's the final answer.
Yeah.
That's the first time we've done that.
Oh.
Hey.
And you won another one.
Feels like
Which
another
family
one.
is leading the way? Let's
I'm
find
sorry,
out.
but he be, it's in me right now.
Yeah, we're winning that one.
Triple points.
Get
You know
your
that
game
gum
faces on,
fruit
because it's
combination.
time for the face-off.
Sounds really good.
I'm gonna need one person from both families to join
So-
me here.
Let's go, Vicky.
The Popeye stuff y'all got was related to an anime thing?
One
One
Piece.
Piece.
Okay. 'Cause
Oh.
I don't think you said it in. I just thought y'all were just there to try a new
Oh,
thing.
got
Okay.
One
I
Piece
think I
stuff.
said it.
And Meg Thee Stallion was doing the
Triple
promo.
points in play.
I didn't see it. I seen it after y'all had went there. I was like, oh.
Did it taste
Maybe-
good?
We conducted a survey of
The lemonade
100
was fire.
people for this question.
Skip the
Lemonade
cupcake.
is good.
Name something you'd see a lot
You're not
of on a
wanting to
tropical
strawberries.
island. You're in first.
Coconut. I don't know.
Palm trees.
Yeah.
Sand.
Palm trees. Double D's.
Sand.
Sand is up there.
Yeah.
But palm trees.
That's good.
It's not tropical. There's no palm
Let's see
trees.
what the survey says. Palm trees. That's at the top.
Yeah,
Is it your time
Vicky.
to-
I like how he still said palm trees
Yeah.
instead of just trees, like it's programmed in there. Like player pass.
Oh, we're playing, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a good start. Let's see if your family can
We
sweep up
must
the
have
rest.
passed the first one.
No, we didn't get the first
they-
one.
They got it.
Oh.
Give me an answer.
Whose turn?
Car.
Got it. Right there.
So the island itself has water. Okay.
You're gonna see water all
It's
around it.
worth a shot.
Around the island, but it's on the
Let's
island.
take a look.
Hopefully.
But you're on the tropical island.
Okay.
There's water everywhere.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If that's there,
Because you go
then
to a tropical island for the views of the water.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an answer?
I would like to go to.
You're the Turks to my Caicos.
The Trinidad to my Tobago.
That's your answer.
What was that? What was the answer?
Did our
Sand.
survey agree?
Is
Sand.
it that or people?
Inconsistent.
Beaches.
Our
Beaches
survey
and
says
wine.
yes.
Okay.
We didn't want to be mean.
Huh?
Piers.
Name something you'd see a lot of on a tropical island.
Tourists.
Fruit.
Fruit. Shells.
Feeling lucky?
Well, shells would also be on
There
beaches,
aren't many
right?
answers left.
Was
Is
that
it
our?
there?
Was that for our answer?
She said tourist, so I put tourist.
Oh, I didn't think.
No, we
So
were
you earned
trying to
your
figure out
first
what we were
strike
gonna
of this
say.
You yelled it, so that's why I started talking.
Seashells.
We've got 2 answers left on the
Alright.
board.
Okay.
Oh, you gonna take seashells? Fish.
I think fish is the answer because the
Yeah.
season is not there.
Seashells.
I put that. I started putting C and it wasn't there.
That's what you're going with?
This is
that
like
answer up
condescendingly.
Coconut should be on there.
Fish.
The
Dang.
fuck?
Well,
Two
coconut.
strikes.
Fruit.
Our
I
other
don't know if
family
they'll
better get
consider-
ready.
Oh, I'm gonna say coconut.
Yeah.
I bet you've got a great answer for us.
Yeah.
Coconut or fruit?
Okay.
Come
sure.
on, shake your
Our survey says
cocoa nuts
Fruit.
until
Yes.
the nut comes
Yes.
out.
If you said fruit, it
Yeah.
may not take it if it's coconut. If you said coconut, it would take it if it was
name
fruit.
something you'd see a lot of on a tropical island.
Ooh, I bet the flowers.
What?
Sun. Is it us?
Sun, yes.
No.
It's Javi here.
No, I wouldn't say.
Or is that Kari?
Kari.
What are you saying?
What would you say? You're gonna say
Because this
sun.
this third strike.
Quick, tell me something.
Sun.
Okay.
Yep. Hey, that's how I was like.
I think it's
Sun or
good.
sunshine?
It's up there. Sun.
Yes.
I would have put plants.
And is that the
Flowers.
answer we need? Sun. And that's your third strike.
I mean, it's a good.
Whoa.
Good yes.
Our other family has a chance to steal.
They're gonna fuck up.
Please fuck
One
it.
answer will do it.
Watch 'em
And
put plants.
Steal the round.
And fuck
Give me an
it.
answer. And if you're right, you get all the points. Give me a wrong one and, well, you know.
Son of a Crichton.
Is that answer good enough?
No.
Flowers. You got it.
They beat us.
Our winning family.
They stole our answer.
We running that back.
They heard it.
That's it.
We running that back.
Yeah. They stole our
Our
answer
team
because
of
they heard
champions
it.
cannot.
Dream team my ass.
They're going on to play fast.
Do we have to watch him play fast?
No.
No, I think we play with them.
But unfortunately,
Remember on the
Oh,
game,
that's right.
on the game they do it differently, where instead of you and your other teammate, it's you versus.
Oh, okay, that's
you
right.
missed
Okay.
out on fast money this time.
Oh, no.
But no one who gets this far goes empty-handed. Let's see how much you'll be putting in the bank today.
So no
seriously.
fast money.
No,
No,
we
it's
didn't.
not fast money.
Only they get to play fast money with
But
us
we don't get to.
if we win.
Yeah.
But if they win, we don't get to play with them. Does that make sense to you?
No.
No, because if it's fast money, then two of us get to play. It's always the
On the actual
you.
show.
No, on this thing because
No.
you get to play and then one of us gets to play.
Come on.
I don't remember it working like that.
That's how I remember it last time.
I don't know.
Maybe it's when we don't play against
Who's here?
here.
Oh, okay. I could.
When we can play against each other, it does that.
Okay.
But when we go against the computer, no.
Because I remember.
Oh, 2, 5, 4.
Okay.
It's me, Lucky McCoy, and I can't
All right,
wait
thank
to
you.
get used again.
Oh. I was wondering, I was like, what's going on out there? I forgot she ordered some food.
I just home
Did you turn? Oh, yeah.
They're gonna bounce back in this game.
I'm sorry. I didn't know if y'all ate or not.
And defending their crown. You've got this down, but a quick recap. I give you a survey.
It's okay, we're gonna bounce back this time. I know everybody was
Like
like,
that shit.
we did very well and just missed that one.
That was a
And
warm up.
Let's hit it.
all right, we're running it back.
Are you ready for a
Run it back round.
I want 2 people to join me over here.
This other yellow hat guy here, back with another video.
Got chicken.
All right,
I'm
focus.
taking 3 answers this time.
Rock, paper, scissors. Go.
Buzz in first to get a shot at answering our survey. If you can find the top answer, you'll choose if your family plays or passes the round. We asked 100 people. Name something a firefighter might use to put out a small fire. You're up.
Water extinguisher.
Blanket. Extinguisher.
Water hose.
Gosh, I can't spell. Sting. Nope, it ain't there.
What, water?
No, extinguisher.
Water!
We're doing that next.
Yes. Let's check the
But
board
not all
and see
fires
if
you can
they-
put out with water, right?
Yes.
What
These
are
are
stupid
stupid people.
No.
Why's that?
Not chemical.
See, water wasn't number one.
Good
No,
answer.
if it's a
But
grease
there's
fire.
still a better
Yeah.
one to be
Some
found.
will have to be put out with
Let's see if you
Powder.
can find the
Yeah.
top
Yeah.
answer.
Other one, like grease fires, you
Name
have to
something
like
a
close it.
firefighter
Mhm.
might use to put out
So
a
you could
small
put
fire.
salt or
Yeah.
flour on it.
Where was extinguisher when I typed it?
I guess you have to put in
Yeah,
fire.
because
See if it's
fire.
up there.
Oh.
Fire
It's the whole
extinguisher.
unicorn Pegasus thing all over again.
And you can't do better than that. Top answer.
The next one's
Here's the
blanket.
$1 million question. Play or pass?
let them play. I'm gonna fuck
All
up
of the
anyway.
answers.
They're passing to you.
Oh!
Your shot. Don't blow it.
Blanket, fire blanket.
Ooh, this is so exciting. There's just one uncovered answer up there.
Alright, where did you put the plate?
Because, you know, just putting blanket was going to be a no.
Have you found the missing answer? Let's find out.
Shut the fuck up, Lucky.
Damn.
Yes.
Hey, but blanket works here.
Board is clear.
Wow.
We got it.
But we only get 90 because they got points for the other answer they got right.
Let's take a look at the current scores.
No, we got all the points. It's
Oh,
just
we
number
did?
10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We won
We've
it.
only played one round so far, and this game is already
Still 10
blowing the
hours.
roof off the studio.
They can suck
Time
a
to go
fat
head
one.
to head. It's the face-off. I need one person from each family to join me up front. There are 4 answers you need to find. Fingers on buzzers, here we go. We took a survey of 100 people, asking them, name another word for pancake.
Flapjack.
Fast. Hope you got a good answer.
Is it just one answer?
No, it's 4.
There's other words for pancakes
Okay, then.
outside of flapjack?
Is it up there? Show
What
me.
are they?
I don't know.
Flapjack.
Crate?
I don't know
Found
any of
the
them.
number one answer.
I couldn't tell you.
They're probably like
I-
British
You
words or
could
something.
pass.
Play or
Pass that.
pass.
They're probably British words or something.
Crate?
I'm
Nah.
gonna do X. I'm gonna pass.
Hold on.
No, just pass it.
Other words for pancake.
No, because I don't trust this game.
Hot cakes,
Hey,
griddle cakes,
tell us if you want to play.
Johnny cakes, crepes. So yeah,
Let's
nah.
see if the rest of
Okay,
the team
play.
keep things
We're
going.
playing this. Fuck them. I don't care. We're not passing and then finding out later. Oh, we just didn't think of that because we.
Okay.
Time for your guess.
Yeah, go.
Hot
Okay,
cakes.
hot.
I was-
So let's have hot cakes.
Sell them at McDonald's.
If anybody is hungry, there's
Lots of pizza.
Right there up top. Yep.
Say it with confidence.
Yeah, these are like.
What did our survey say?
I didn't know we were gonna cheat.
Hot cake.
Oh,
That's 10.
slapjack.
Correct answer.
Slapjack.
That's what this says. Slapjack.
No.
What's another one?
Think you've got a
Griddle
good answer?
cakes.
Let's hear it.
I don't know.
I'd go with
You got-
slapjack.
I would
Like the wrestler?
go with griddle cake.
Go with griddle cake.
You don't trust
Because you got to
that.
think about this game.
Right there.
I see where you're going with
I
this.
mean,
You
that
better.
makes sense because you can make them on a griddle.
Let's see if the board's
That
got
sounds like something my grandma would say.
griddle cake.
If you start putting in slap in it,
Board is almost clear.
I
Yeah.
know Johnny cake
Mhm.
is a thing.
Never heard Johnny cake.
Name another word for
That's a southern
pancake.
thing.
Go with
I'd
slapjack.
say the same thing. I'm from Southern already.
Oh.
And if slapjack doesn't work, go with crepes.
Slap it in
Oh.
there.
No.
Crepes and
Back up,
sandwiches.
back up. Crepes.
Oh, that's right. We still got 3. There
Right
it is.
there.
Right there.
Yep. Is that the final answer? Great.
Yep.
Yay!
Cleared the board.
Oh, I
That's
forgot.
Got 99 problems,
I always
but
think
ain't one.
Crepe is not.
It's not.
It is a French pancake.
They don't consider a
Hope you all can
pancake,
get some
but I
points
know
on the board
Americans
next
go
round.
look at it and go, that's still a
It
pancake.
looks close enough.
Yep.
just a thinner.
It's just a thin pancake that you roll. It's a pancake tortilla.
There you go.
It's time for the face-off. Who's playing this time? Get yourselves over here.
Hey, can you pass that over to Tommy?
We have 4 to find on this one.
Why is it only 4 on these?
Ooh, things are heating up.
I guess on the hard
Now.
mode, it's
100 people
hardest
give
mode
us an
it's on.
answer to this
So this the
question.
hard one?
yeah. We've been playing on the hard,
Name
the
something
hard
kids
difficulty.
just love to jump on. In like
Trampoline.
What do you think?
Bed. Yeah,
People.
go with bed.
Bed.
Go with bed number 1, but maybe trampoline. I know
No,
trampoline.
but it's couch is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bed, couch, trampoline. What else?
We have an answer.
People.
Could it be there?
Pop. Pop on top.
Bet.
Woo!
We found the top answer. Play or pass?
Play.
No.
Playing?
Yep.
Oh, still feeling confident after that last round? I like that. Let's play.
Yeah, I think we're smarter than the computer.
I need an answer.
You could be
Trampoline.
cheating.
Until the 2026 version comes out, or 2028 version. What'd you say?
Trampoline.
I thought I heard you say swing.
There it is.
Are you sure about that?
Jump.
Show me the answer.
Bouncy house.
Trampoline.
Ooh, that could be.
Oh, that's nice.
What did you say? Couch?
Inflatable.
Couch was the
Said
next
couch.
Couch.
Your guess, buddy.
And an inflatable.
What's your good
Kids
Ball.
love jumping on the couch.
And people.
And people. I think those are the last 2.
Alrighty
Well, we're
then.
good. We can take a whack at people.
Only a few answers left. Have you found one of them? Couch.
What did we jump on the playground?
Ooh, we're so close to completion.
Nothing really.
Nice.
jump off of? Yeah.
Yeah.
Jump off.
Name something
Jump off the
kids
swings.
just love to jump on.
These.
You gonna try people?
Fine, I'll do it. I don't feel confident in it, but
People. I'm a guess. No.
It's right there.
I was like, why would people
Good.
come
Okay.
first?
Like their
Is
brother.
it there?
right.
Stop jumping on your brother.
People.
We
You
tried.
failed to find an answer, which means you get your first strike of the round.
The stairs.
Yeah.
I did do that.
Leaves.
Yeah.
All
Jump
right,
Leaf
on-
piles?
They jump
One
in.
answer
Leaf
left.
pile.
Ah, they
Never
always
say
liked
jump.
it.
Snow.
Here.
Jump on puddles.
Water.
No.
So what are you picking?
Puddles.
I say stairs.
Stars.
That's what you think.
Somebody
huh?
yelled out. It's a great answer.
Survey says
No, in the game.
stairs.
What? Because I used to do that.
Okay, people, let's be careful here.
Jump on
You can
puddles
still
or
do it.
jump. I don't know if
They
they consider
always
that jump in.
Yeah.
It's all up
Like
to you now.
they
So
jump
do
in.
you then.
leave
Jump
out.
What's
on.
this? That's all she wrote.
Balloons?
If it's jump on, if it's not a bouncy house, then I would know bouncy castle.
Here we go then. Did any of our 100 people
I
say
don't know what year that they asked
Bouncy
these people
castle.
these questions.
Oh no, strike 3? Like my friend Al Capone used to say, another family has a chance to steal.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Wow, that was terrible.
Now the
I'm
other
just
family only
amazed that
need
he
to
has
find one answer
Al Capone
and
as
they
a
can
friend.
take this round.
Right.
Name something kids just love to jump on.
Dogs.
I was gonna say animal.
What?
Lawn?
Okay,
Jump on the lawn.
and what did our survey
No,
say?
that better not be on there.
Lawn.
Oh, okay. I was about to say.
What?
What old man? That's some old man. Get off my lawn.
We got one already, 2 rounds.
And
Woohoo.
I can
Alright, let's see what it is. It's
That
gonna
leaves
drive me
just
crazy.
one answer to reveal.
gonna be something so
Number
simple.
4,
Oh, it's not.
leaves.
Somebody did say
Oh,
that.
leaves.
Who said that?
Somebody did say
You
that.
did say leaves.
Yeah.
But you jump in leaves, not jump on
Yeah.
leaves.
Because I would jump in the pile of leaves. I wouldn't jump on the
You're
leaves.
going to play fast money. What a shocker.
You did say
The
that.
tough team of True Titans has been tough.
Because, you know, on that logic, it's like, oh, pool.
Yeah, I thought of the pool too, but then I was like,
Not
They'll
the
jump
team
on.
of True Titans. Really?
Because, I mean, once Puddles wasn't up there, I was like, okay, well,
It's
or whatever
fast
else we
money.
did.
We need 2 people for fast money. Who else is going to play?
Yeah, who else is gonna
It's the captain's prerogative to pick a first mate. Who's it
I
going to
see you, fam. I see you. Who wants to do it?
Vicky?
If you type it, I'll answer.
I was gonna say I'll answer, but I don't want to tell you.
Well, I'll answer.
Yeah.
All right, let's do
We'll
it.
just all answer together.
The purpose was I don't have to type.
I'm
Oh.
going to go first.
Huh.
I'm going to ask
Sorry.
you 5 survey questions,
My hands are
which will
blue.
answer against the
I don't
clock.
want to touch God.
If you and your
Okay,
teammate
Diddy.
can score more than 200 points, you'll win the jackpot.
You can bring baby oil.
Ready? Let's start the clock.
I got
Ah! Oh!
Ooh,
Ooh.
we're having a ditty party
Is the
tomorrow?
most
I was laughing until I was like, oh, I'm going to this.
Italy.
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 Not France?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh,
I'm going to do France.
Yeah.
Italy
We'll do
and
Italy.
France.
But y'all can do that on y'all's.
Name something you'd hate to
The next-
discover
'cause
was
it's fast.
missing on the morning of your wedding.
Ring. We going ring, Steve.
Name
No,
something
big-
that
I would've
might be
said,
sold at a
you
funeral
know,
homes
Wife.
going out of
Yeah.
business sale.
Coffin, Steve. Yep, coffins. Co-workers.
Who are
Coworkers.
people nervous about introducing their new partner to?
coworkers.
Friends.
Nervous about it. Parents.
She said sex.
Oh, ooh.
It says who, not what.
Name something
Kept on
that
the
might
counter
go
in the kitchen,
up,
Cardi.
up, and away.
Up, up in the rain. Rocket.
That's everything.
And away. No, who actually said that?
Super.
See
Superman.
how your partner does with these questions.
Would you put a rocket?
Wes said something, not someone.
I'm going to ask you the same 5 questions. You cannot duplicate any answers.
Right, I feel like-
if you do, I'll ask you to try again.
We'll put Superman up.
And here,
I feel like they're probably gonna put plane or something like that. So it says rocket.
which country do you think is the most romantic?
Italy.
Name something you'd hate to discover was missing on the morning of your wedding.
Spouse.
Spouse.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Name something that might be sold at a funeral home's going out of business sale.
Flowers.
That is actually probably a better answer.
Wreath.
Yeah.
Flowers.
Which one do you want?
Flowers.
Okay.
Who are people nervous about introducing their new partner?
I say friends.
Best friend.
I'd say kids.
Girlfriend?
What are you picking?
Best friend.
Oh, that's a lot.
Just say friends.
Dang.
Name something that might go up, up, and away.
Superman.
Balloon.
I hate balloons.
Bangkok.
That's everything.
I like balloons.
I don't like helium.
99.
Where's love for them
Bring out both
balloons?
contestants and see how the scores
I
came out.
like the balloons.
It's German, not British.
First up, we asked, which country do you think is the most romantic?
I think we got one or
The
two.
answers you gave.
Yeah.
We got the true answers.
I feel like it's more Italy.
No, it's France.
Keep going.
I know
Because you always think about Paris.
because Paris
Name
is a city of
something
love,
you
but
ate
it's
and
like the
discovered
entire
was
country
missing
of
on the
Italy.
morning of your wedding. You answered. Did anyone say those?
1 and 2. What?
I think
One
it
of
would have
those
been
answers was
Beyonce,
good.
maybe.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
gonna say
They're not
after
married yet.
that.
Yeah, after.
That would have been the best answer.
Wait, what would have been the best
For
answer?
the next question,
Oh,
we
right.
asked, name something that might be sold at a funeral home's going out of business sale.
Bodies.
Your answer?
Nice. No, I wasn't swatting at you. There's a little gnat right here. That's all.
You're so close. This is
Only
fantastic.
2, damn.
Bodies.
For question 4, who are people nervous about introducing their new partner?
We
That
had to
has
get
to
this
be
one.
1 and 2 right
I
there.
had to
What
have
did you
it.
say? I think we've got a couple of good
I'm
answers
not
there.
best friend.
I felt like kids should have been up there.
That's 200 points. Way to go. You've earned
I
yourself
hate when they do that.
victory.
Let me see the others.
All right.
Let's take a quick look see at the rest
Oh,
of the
hey, we
answers.
got balloons.
We got the number one answer.
You just won
You won.
$20,000. How does that feel?
80 points.
This is Lucky McCoy. Thanking you oh so much for playing. See you next time.
Can I try a piece of pizza?
No. Yes, you can.
I've never had that kind that
The Jets.
yeah.
What do you
This
say?
is really
Wanna
good.
go again?
Vicky, did you want any or you good?
I might get my.
There's cheese and then there's chicken. Not for you.
She can pick the chicken off. She can pick the chicken off.
No. That'd be like me trying to pick off pepperoni.
You've done it that before? Never in your life.
When I ate pepperoni and I didn't want
If
to
your
eat
pops
it,
was like, look, babe, sorry they got cheese,
then I
you can
don't
just
eat
pick it off. What if you knew that he picked it off and took like a knife and kind of just.
I don't want the.
Well, what if you didn't know?
I would know after I ate it.
Makes me sick.
Like the residue of it?
Because it's already been cooked into the food.
Let's see, it wouldn't get her sick though.
Kari, you're the slowest.
20 seconds per answer. Well, that's because he's the furthest away to
I
pass
scored the
trouble.
most points. I scored the most. Oh no, that's not me.
That's me.
Shit.
But me and Jamie had the best answer for balloon.
So are we rematching these guys or what?
No.
They don't deserve it.
I mean, technically they do. It's
No, they don't. No, they don't.
1 and 1.
No.
No. They still
Well,
are
I'll run it
answering.
back. I think I have to wait till next week.
Alright, so we're going to jump into Mario Party.
Mario, right? I thought we were doing 1-2 switch.
Okay, 1, 2, switch. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share.
Hurry up, 1-2 switch. Don't,
And we'll
don't
see,
promise me a good time and then. take
Not
back.
do it.
No, I was going to switch on you.
Come on, buddy, you can talk now.
Oh, he's off.
Oh.
I mean, you can hit the button, turn it back on.
That looks like one of my old school.
You got to hold the button. It's not on the top, it's on the front of them.
That black button
The black button on the front.
right there. You gotta find the button, okay? That's how you make her work.
Oh! That's on the stream only, not on the recording. I already recorded.
What's up? Hey. Do you respond? Do you need a name? What's your name? You just flash at me?
Yeah, because my Bluetooth is off.
Oh. I was like,
I gotta find some like non-copywritten music to play.
Well, so why you were?
Go ahead, get started. Make the. Oh, sorry. Wrong version.
She's not sorry. She's not sorry.
Wrong version.
Alpha, what are you still doing here?
Huh.
Alpha left something behind. Mr. Pickles.
You told him Alpha left something behind, so
Excuse you. I think you might need to get a room. Oh, you gotta make it talk for us. So it just doesn't respond randomly?
no.
Oh. You suck.
Suck a fat one.
Giant fat one.
Cosmic Invasion.
It's a beat 'em up. Beat 'em ups are awesome.
So like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter?
No, like the Final Fight, Scott Pilgrim, Simpsons, X-Men.
Oh, okay, okay.
Like them arcade ones where you're just like beating up people on the
Yeah,
street.
man, it's a beat 'em up. Beat 'em ups are great.
Okay.
Because you just walk up to things and just mash buttons until they die.
Well, that's all I ever do is mash a button.
Lies. You played World War Z. You don't do that no more.
Well, I'm still mashing
Damn.
buttons.
No, she ain't mashing buttons. No, she aiming and shooting.
Why are you moaning like that? Like, I think you need to get a room. If that's all you do.
Little thing is a pervert.
You need to leave.
Anybody can go see the Michael Jackson movie?
Yeah. When is it?
Next week, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely gotta see that.
I gotta see Michael.
I
The movie
love
that
Big
does not have
Michael.
all the siblings in it.
Well, you know the nephew's playing Michael.
Yeah. But, you know, not all the siblings. I think somebody tickled its pickle. Yeah, because I think they couldn't use the likeness of all the brothers.
Really?
Because
Why?
not everybody agreed on it.
Who didn't agree? They're all still alive. Well, one of them's gone. Tito's gone.
Randy and Jermaine, I don't know if they don't get along, because you know they got the same baby mama.
Oh no.
No.
Seriously?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Jermaine's wife.
Well, Jermaine's son is the one that's playing.
Yes. With
Mike.
Yeah. But Randy was
So
with
they're
her
brother
first.
cousins.
They brother cousins.
In Joy-Con mode, you only need Joy-Con
Yeah,
controllers
because
to
what is
play.
it?
Oh no, I'm not
One
playing that.
Joy-Con per person.
You're not what?
Up to 8 people can
You're not playing this?
Why not? You don't like
Y'all can play it.
You don't like what to switch?
Do you want to play Joy-Con mode?
No, I've been up and down all day.
Is there any way to take out the physical games? Why did that thing just throw itself on the floor?
Because it's dancing. It dances.
Like it just chucked itself.
It did. And it landed on his feet.
He likes to dance.
It heard y'all talking about Michael Jackson and started moonwalking.
Are Culver's finally open?
I was like, I saw that. I
Oh,
like
yeah.
Culver.
I do too. Yeah.
Y'all literally put the pickle on the pizza.
Huh?
That's not a y'all thing.
That was Hobby.
That's awesome.
I was just placing it anywhere.
Hobby put the pickle on.
I'm assuming it gets around.
Yep.
Get around.
That's
Tupac.
the pickle. We don't have to play Web 2 Switch.
No, we'll play a quick round of it.
Nah, because I was sore for like 2 days after that.
What? The sword one? Oh, that? Uh-uh.
Wait.
Alien one?
Ooh, ha, and the squats. I was sore. I was like, nah, I'm good.
I do enough jumping up and down the truck all day. I'm good.
And I forgot you have to use Joy-Cons for this to start it.
Oh, I'm good.
No, we're gonna do it.
No, I don't want to exercise. Jamie, no. I'll do it only if Jamie plays.
Jamie, they're calling you.
Hold your Joy-Con vertically to play.
That's right. We played smart. We was playing on the phone last time.
In smart device mode.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Smart devices and two.
And I brought my charger this time.
Where did the robot go?
Right there.
What's behind me?
Oh, okay, I'm gonna turn it off.
It's already off.
Oh, somehow it turned itself off.
No, I turned it off.
Oh, I didn't see. I missed all of that.
Yeah.
What's up?
We're gonna play 1-2 switch.
Okay. I like 1-2 switch.
Alright, if Jamie don't play it now.
I'll play. You not want to play?
I forgot about all the physicality.
Oh.
I was so
Well, we don't have to play. We can play Mario Party.
So sore.
Let's play Mario Party so you're not so sore.
So y'all wanted to switch to the Mario Party? Let me know before I hit record.
Sorry.
Yeah, we can go ahead.
Okay. I don't want to exercise that's right now. My arms are burning. My legs are
I need
burning.
that other controller.
Alright, Cardi, get your Mario Party. Snowing again?
Snowing where?
Where?
Colorado.
Oh, shit.
I mean, it is Colorado.
No, you hold that one.
Yeah, they are mountain. It's.
Those mountain people.
You got a pretty mouth, mister.
All right. Okay. There should be another controller to jump in.
Jamie has it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on.
Who's playing?
And then the other one should be that one right there.
And Cardi.
I got this one right here.
Hold on, Cardi's getting more.
Pizza's pretty good.
Hmm?
That pizza's pretty good.
Oh, the chicken one? Okay. I got it just the way you wanted it, sir. No, how you feel?
So whoever's using this one needs the grip. Wherever that went.
Tank, could you grab it since your hands are clean?
You want me to feed you the pizza?
No.
He said, yeah.
Just
put it in your mouth.
Do you want to play?
Set your motherfucking
No,
mouth.
My eyes like really bothering me.
Oh.
It's the pollen.
Oh. Did you take your allergy meds?
I took it at 9 yesterday. It's 24 hours.
Okay.
So right at 9 it wore off.
Oh.
And I'm not gonna take it because I gotta
It's
get some
almost-
sleep.
yeah.
It keeps you up.
Huh?
That sounds nice. What medicine
You
is
take.
it?
Claritin? B?
Don't you take the bootleg version?
Bootleg's different. I've tried the bootleg. It don't do nothing.
Oh, the loratadine.
Dragon Noah, what's up?
Whichever one the Walgreens has.
So it has to be Claritin B.
It's crazy. I don't know. Like most generics are exactly the same. It's only the name brand.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's like the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. So it is other yellow hat guy here, back with another video. And today we're playing some more Mario Party Jamboree.
What is the demon going on?
This is the person who's so into horror movies but freaked out by that one.
I wasn't freaked out. I was just trying to figure out what's going on.
Almost
Just
said
a
it's the
new
devil.
spin. New spin on the intro. Who is all playing?
Kari.
All right.
Jamie.
Me?
And
Yeah, I'm playing
you're
with
not
Jamie.
you're not playing? Okay, and you want to play or you can
I'm
pass?
playing with Jamie.
Okay.
We're one.
Yes.
All right.
Jamboree TV.
So I did that whole CM Punk intro and he's not even playing.
Who?
I was wanting you in Mario Kart. I didn't want you in Mario Party.
Okay. So you heard it here first, he didn't want it.
Oh.
Oh.
Ask Nas, he don't want it with Hove. No! No, hold on.
You want the smoke?
Ask Nas, he didn't want it with Hove. No! Wait, he didn't do it. No! That's awesome. I don't fuck it up. Take two. Ask Nas, he don't want it with Hove. No!
Oh no. You need that Chris Brown.
Ooh, I can't wait to
You know he's touring with Usher
Yeah, my friend's going.
this summer.
Yeah.
already know it. Wait,
Are you getting tickets?
She's gonna get tickets as soon as they come out.
Bank of America, right?
I don't have City Card or Bank of America. I have to wait.
No, he's saying that's where it's at.
Oh,
Bank of
yeah,
America
yeah,
Stadium.
Bank of America Stadium.
It'll be on a Sunday though.
No, Saturday.
Saturday?
No, Friday, July
Friday.
17th.
I don't know. She's got tickets.
I would go
Okay.
just.
Birthday.
Apparently, there are some secret ticket sales that they did not mention.
So we need Kari's face in here.
You get all access by Live Nation, City member.
You know what? I forgot to check my T-Mobile.
There you go. Verizon.
I should have checked my T-Mobile because I'm pretty sure they would be in.
You want to sit over here by Jamie so you can be in the
To the
screen?
left, to the left, to the right, to the right. To the front, to the front, to the back, to the back.
Confirm.
Now dip, baby, dip.
Because apparently I hear these tickets are extravagant, but I'm really
Kansas
not
Street
sure.
and Road, that you see that Tootsie Roll.
Oops, let's try it again.
I would think that their lowest
Huh.
price probably could be like $1 something.
Someone said it was 300.
What? The nosebleed? Shit. I'd rather just listen to this shit on YouTube.
No, I'm just gonna watch it on TikTok. Because somebody's gonna stream it. Because that's what they do, is they stream stuff.
Pro is
Kari, make your circle bigger. Don't do that. He wants all his face
All
to
his
be
pro
on
in there.
Just do.
Sorry, y'all, we're vain this week. The wait is over. The wait is over.
I really hope to go to this concert.
Which one?
The Usher Chris Brown. Even though I saw Chris Brown 6 months ago.
Cool.
And Usher a year ago.
I got tickets for Evanescence.
Are you going to go see Everclear?
See, these are really, really red up here. I don't know how I feel about that. Really, really red.
Like, I almost want to go.
Right?
I liked their first album like a lot, and I hated their second
It
album.
seems
And I'm
too
just like,
expensive.
How much are the tickets?
It's like $100.
It was
Because
more
it's
than
a
I was
standing.
like it's
It's
standing
standing?
room, and I was like, eh. I didn't even look at the price. I was
Well,
like,
it's a
standing room.
bar, so it's definitely
Yeah.
standing.
But I'm not paying $100 to stand.
I'm too old for that.
And I don't know where the hell that bar is at. It's somewhere
I've
wrong.
never been there. It's just somewhere wrong.
I go.
Huh?
You would go to a bar for $100 to see Everclear.
Oh, I thought you said Evanescence.
Oh.
No.
No.
So that was like Evanescence at a bar?
No. Evanescence at Walnut. But I do need somebody to go with me.
You said Everclear?
Yeah.
Evanescence.
I'm trying to bring it up.
Evanescence.
I thought y'all were already gone.
Oh,
She already
Evanescence.
bought Evanescence a long
No,
time
I did
ago.
not get the ticket because I was waiting for Usher and Chris Brown.
I thought you were like, hey, I got it on T-Mobile and you got your ticket for like $20.
No,
That's what you told us. I remember you were like, oh,
no
I
I
got
said they were
T-Mobile.
on T-Mobile. Just in case anybody had.
Because when you were talking about it, they were like cheap.
They were.
Now they not.
Now they not.
Dang, that's disappointing. I was like, at least somebody I know is going.
I was holding out because Usher and Chris had mentioned last year during the Chris Brown concert that they may tour.
He was like, Chris, as long as you don't get no felonies, we can make it happen.
He ain't had no felony in how long?
Well, I mean, the other one is Nelly and Akon.
Nelly's always on tour.
No, they ain't.
Nelly has been on tour like for the past 3 years.
You're right.
Like
Yeah, wasn't he at the White House tour
Yeah, I'm sure was.
with Chili?
Ooh,
TLC.
I heard people are no longer wanting to buy the tickets.
Yeah,
to that
TLC new tour is Chili and the Unseasoned.
Chili is
The Unseasoned Chili.
TLC in Vogue
And Salt Pepper.
and Salt and Pepper.
Boy, that
Now-
was the wrong group to be like, yeah, I'm going to be supporting the president. With that group, with that lineup.
Is
Some
she,
people were
is she,
saying to replace TLC with SWV.
actually,
Ooh. Dang. Shots fired.
SWV.
yes.
No, they were saying, I heard to replace them with the Chicks.
No. They're
Oh,
not.
wow.
I'm saying they're
Oh,
not.
wow.
They're saying that people were wanting them to.
Oh.
SWV still got it. I mean, or even Escape.
They gonna do what,
Yeah.
5 songs and then that's it.
You can be T-Boss with Escape. No.
They said let either T-Boz go by herself because he ain't got left out anyway.
It could be T-Boz and T.I.'s family. Done.
Yeah.
T-Boss and T.I.
King Harris in that Pikachu outfit could
King,
do Left Eyes versus.
Oh, I've seen that tour anyway.
Which one?
The same one?
Oh, the SWV Escape Tour?
No. TLC.
Oh, yeah.
TLC, Salt and Pepper, and Vogue.
Where to?
Years ago.
But no, this is the In Vogue though.
That was the Vogue.
No, I think you had Rhoda.
No. It was all 4 members.
Oh, well, how long ago was that? They haven't been 4 members in a minute.
I gotta check.
The original 4
Alright.
members?
See, it's
Yeah.
very, very
It
red.
hasn't been since like the 90s.
No. They got together a few years back. Because they toured with TLC.
That wasn't the original 4.
Bet.
Because who's the one that's still missing? Dawn said she said she won't tour with you. And she said that like after Lucy Pearl.
And I remember because it was in the rain.
I'm gonna have to check because
Okay,
It was at
so
Walnut Creek.
what we're gonna do here is stand by.
you said it's in the past what? 10 years?
4 or 5 years?
4 or 5. They had Rona.
4 or 5.
It wasn't her.
No, I'm just resetting it. I wasn't happy with like the hues and the color difference from the TV to the capture card.
Speed is fire.
Hmm?
The speed is fire.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we will see OAR too. Raleigh. Along with Gavin DeGraw and Lisa Loeb. Yeah, she's the opener.
Yeah, Dawn hasn't been in the group since 2000.
All right, the colors are back like they should be.
Maxine just got back in the group last year, and before that she wasn't in it after 2012. You saw the new girl, and then once Maxine came back, the new girl quit.
That's probably what it was then.
Yeah.
Either way, it was a hot show.
But no, these are 3 of the 4 original members now.
Okay.
And they're
Did you know the Fray broke up?
no what?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
This is like years ago. I didn't know that either.
I thought they were just on hiatus.
No, they broke up. He left the band because he wanted to get started the celebrity life or whatever. And then
He's still a celebrity either way. You've already made
I
yourself
mean,
famous.
yeah, but he went back to Seattle, and then they started touring without him,
Oh, okay.
and they're touring without him now. But now he's come out by himself. This is like a couple years after.
Dude, if you wanted to go solo, just say you want to go solo.
That's what I'm saying. But it's not the Fray without his voice.
No.
'Cause they're having a concert in Winston.
Who?
The
The Fray?
You know,
In Winston?
this month,
Without
next
the
month,
lead singer, apparently.
without the 3 members.
Well, who's singing the song?
They're like, bro, we still have bills to pay.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's exactly what
Oh,
they said
they're
though.
doing it as a trio.
Said there's no reason for us not to keep touring. We can keep doing it, we can sing it.
Because if I can't go see Chris, I'm going to have to go see somebody this year. I need at least one. I need one concert a year at least.
Good job, Jamie.
Or is with their face.
I wasn't even looking.
You got 10 by the way.
Oh.
Sorry, out there.
I like how that orange pillow looks like it's like a chair or sofa that you're sitting on.
I don't know nothing around this. Where is Bailey Park? I've never heard of Bailey Park. I know where the True Stadium.
That ass!
Deadass.
Are you looking where it's at?
$10 each.
Wait, mine said it's 60. What are you looking at?
Before we get into it, like always, warning, some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Your discretion is advised.
Oh, brother.
Going to Ticketmaster now.
Oh, wait, where is Bailey Park? I've never heard of this place. Patterson Avenue. Well, I know where Patterson Avenue is. Where the hell is Bailey Park?
Who else is
That's where I go get some of my hair from.
Sister Hazel's also touring,
Oh, I like Sister
but they're like an hour away.
In Charlotte?
No,
Hendersonville?
not Hendersonville,
Hickory?
not Hickory either. It's a weird name.
Huntersville?
Give me a second.
I'm very upset about 30 Seconds to Mars touring
Why?
because they seem to only want to tour in Europe now.
Where some of the stuff he's accused of is okay.
What stuff was he accused of? I'm not aware of this.
Because this is a children's channel, I won't discuss it here, but kind
Who,
of,
Leto?
Harmony.
Harmony, there you go.
you kind of put the 2 and 2 together.
Because it's supposed to be at
I'll look it
Ziggy's. And I was like, oh, it's going to be at Ziggy's in High Point. And then it said Harmony. I was like, where the hell's Harmony?
We're going to Bailey Park.
Near Union.
It's an hour and a half away from me.
Is that north?
Union Grove. Isn't that like southeast of here or southwest of here?
First of all, I know exactly where it is.
Isn't it outskirts of Charlotte?
Yeah, like you're going south and then you go outside of Charlotte, like you're going west, right?
Outskirts of Philly, you trying to flex on me? Don't be silly. Getting jiggy with it.
Oh,
Did you see she's touring?
like
Did you see she's touring? Jada's touring.
Pinkett?
Yes.
Oh,
With a
she
new
touring
book.
with Willow?
No, she's touring with a new book. Because she's getting divorced. And dogging Will bad. She's admitting that now that she did have an affair that she only said entanglement, so that Will
Protect
could
his
save
ego.
face. I was like, man, that's
Well, I know that. That was
but everybody knew entanglement was fucking affair.
if you entangle with somebody.
To be fair, she using that word just made it even more.
Yeah, she's
What's worse is like he did everything
I walked through here
for her and to like protect her name,
it's not a big part.
and you're still she a bitch.
She is.
Now, if you said she was gonna be touring with Jaden and Willow, I'd be there. But she ain't touring with.
There's got to be another side to it. I think Will's getting all kinds of ass everywhere else. That's
he
part
is
of their
now, I
arra-
would
yeah,
think.
yeah. No, of course he is now, but like
I mean,
I think he was then too. I just think this societal stigma is they don't look bad at men. I look at what's going on with Mike Vrabel right now, right? He's not being judged like the women are.
Right, because she's getting it. He's not. Because she had to quit her job.
He's not leaving the Patriots.
No. And I thought that was stupid in the first place. Like, what if they do have a relationship? It's not like she's giving information out.
She wasn't adulterous.
Huh?
Who are you talking about, Jada or the NFL?
Jada talking about something. She played the adulterous wife to protect Will's ego.
But what I'm saying
You're
is,
having an affair.
what I'm saying is, a man who is rich and powerful, or whatever, he's cheating on his wife with like 20 women. Terrible guy, right? But the minute that wife is caught with one dude, it's like, oh.
But there was always rumblings. I mean, even from the early 2000s, that they had an open relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he got with Eva Mendes. Eva Mendes.
She married to Ryan Gosling?
This is before then.
Oh, okay.
Back
I was
on like
wait a minute.
Hitch.
Because he discovered her in the Miami video.
Oh.
Welcome to Miami.
Damn it, Bowser! Get the.
I was like, wait a minute, because Ryan Gosling got her locked down. She stopped acting.
But they said that the one that he slept with after she had the affair was Margot Robbie.
Yeah. I was like, Will, you should have left Jada.
I would have been like, bye, Jada. Bye.
She would have got that Jada mwah, kiss.
Yeah.
Kiss the game goodbye.
Don't keep talking so much. I go first, please.
She's like, keep talking.
How did that happen?
I mean, Margot Robbie,
Because
Jada.
Bowser kept jumping on my head. That's what happened.
It's easy for me, man.
It's Margot.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, she hot.
Them Australians come out real good.
Angela White.
Rhea Ripley.
When you say Angela White, you're not talking about China, Black China, right? Okay, wait, are you?
You can Google that name in your phone. Just put 3 X's after it.
I was like, wait a minute. Because, you know, Black China is...
The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers, commentators, expert, and/or host. They do not explicitly nor necessarily reflect nor represent the channel's policy or the views held by this channel or broadcaster. Wink. The broadcaster or his channel cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program. Viewer expression is advised.
So Margot. I don't think he's had. Other than that, I don't think he's had. Well, no, Charlize. Charlize was beautiful at one point.
I thought there was rumors he was with Tyra Banks.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
right
during
before
Fresh
Jada.
Prince. No, that was during Jada.
Was it during Jada?
Because it was they were on set for Fresh Prince of LA. He was with Jada.
That's right. I would have let. Well, that was a 50. That's 50-50.
Like, Tyra, like things that are coming out about her is just.
She crazy.
She needs to stay in Australia.
Here's what it is. All people with money in Hollywood, once they get that fame and they stay in California, they stay in California. They don't need to come back out here.
They don't need to come back home.
Nah. Because they get in their head like they're somebody else.
I would use that mushroom if I were you.
Huh? Don't let him tell you what to do.
That's right, Vicky.
Well, the whole purpose is the mushroom breaks the curse. Without it, it doesn't. For those of you at home who forgot.
Like you said, use the mushroom.
Like you said, Vicky, you use that mushroom like you want to.
I can tell you that Kari's going to use it.
Yes. Yes, I am.
He loves the shroom.
You love
Portobello. Oh, that sucks. Beach, 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 beach.
Look, I haven't. According to this, they said this back last year, and there's been nothing more of it.
Hold on.
What are we talking about?
The Jared
Just
Leto-
a 5? Wow.
Like,
Alright, I gotta pay attention for this.
Showdown minigame.
showdown is. I'm gonna help either Jamie or Vicky win. So Jared Leto's allegations, no one has come. Like, there's nothing up right now.
He's had them silenced. He looked at him and said, "Run away! Run away! I'll attack." Cease and desist. Lawyer was right there. You need to get as far as 30 seconds to Mexico. And that's where they're at.
Or they like him so much they just not gonna flip one.
Well, the allegations are already out there. Like
Oh,
grooming.
man, you guys gotta pay attention.
No, they trying to let the ladies win. Because he said it ain't true.
Ooh. Darius Rucker's gonna be in Greensboro too.
Really? But only doing the country stuff and like 2
No.
booty songs.
It's just him.
Exactly, he's doing country.
No, he's
You
still
don't
Louis.
like it? You don't like his solo music?
I'd rather hear the
I'm
Hootie song.
pretty sure he still do the Hootie stuff.
I mean, I like his solo music.
I like his country stuff.
I like the country stuff. So one of my favorite songs is his country.
Wagon Wheel.
No, the one he did for his best friend.
Who's that one?
Damn it, get up.
Let me see.
That's in June or July. I can't remember. Maybe May.
I'm about to say, who do you go with?
But it's in White Oak.
What the hell is that?
It's outside.
During what time of year?
May, June, or July. One of those two. One of those three. Can't remember which.
Oh, I like the one he did for Shallow Hal. The song that he did for the movie Shallow Hal. And I like the one he did for his friend. This Is My World was the one he did for Shallow Hal.
Yeah. That was a good song.
I love that song. He did one in for his best friend.
That's the one where, like, they just finished doing it. Right? She's dancing for him, and then she throws the panties, and he's like, "What is this?"
And it's like, I'm like, I love that movie. Oh, June 18th.
June 18th. There you go.
Yeah, it popped up in my Spotify. It's like, yeah, June 18th.
I got a concert in June. Oh, it's Thursday.
Yeah, because, no,
June 18th?
that's Wednesday.
No, Wednesday's my Evanescence. June 17th.
No, because June 19th, which is Juneteenth, is Thursday. And I know I have that day off.
I'm looking at it right here.
I was getting ready to take the... Wait a minute, are you sure?
I'm looking at it right here. Wednesday, June 17th.
Oh, Juneteenth is a Friday? Oh, shoot. I was looking at something in the wrong calendar. Okay. I'm off on Friday. That's right. Juneteenth.
Let's do this.
Give me all the chicken and the watermelon.
Great drink.
And grape soda. And orange soda. Orange soda.
Yeah, I love orange soda.
I do. Or maybe that was Keith Urban that has that song that I like.
Can't remember it now.
Because Keith Urban died. No.
He's not.
Keith Urban's still alive.
No, not Keith Urban. Toby Keith.
His marriage died recently. But he didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that died more than recently. All she told him was stay off drugs.
Now you can stay off the weed.
No, more than the weed.
Why?
At least it wasn't Scarousel.
Them Australians.
Somebody's missing.
I already died.
Oh. I was like, wait a minute, somebody's missing. I was trying to distract him for you. It didn't work.
Why aren't you jumping, Corey?
His big ass doesn't have to. It's a liability.
There you go.
Ah, Kari.
Jamie and Lev.
Let's go. Wifey. Let's go. Get in front of him. Use those legs. Use those legs, princess. Come on, get back in front of him. Push him.
Fuck that bitch.
Push him. There
Oh!
you go.
Oh shit!
Good job. At the very end. Ooh, Journey. I forgot somebody said Journey.
Yeah, I saw that too. You know who else is coming? Billy Idol. Billy Idol. It's gonna be one in Charlotte.
I thought you were gonna say Billie Eilish.
Nah. Well, she's touring too, but I don't care for her.
Here comes the pain.
Oh, Weird Alice touring?
Yeah, I saw that too. I want to go see him, but not for the price that he's charging.
Dave Matthews Band is touring?
I wouldn't go.
I'm going for that if I can.
You know they never play. He never plays hits.
Wait, what?
Whatever he wants. Like literally, I saw the set list for this year. Nothing. Like
I want to see Bruno Mars, but I can't afford it.
Same.
I looked at it too. I wanted to see him.
I've actually already seen him once, and it was a great show, but
I heard the show is awesome.
I refuse to pay $300 for nosebleed
damn.
seats.
Oh yeah, the tickets were ridiculous. I
Yeah,
was like,
when I went the first time, it was $85, and we had really good seats.
Yeah, even right here.
This is
on
gonna
the
be
seat
bad.
peak, It's $250
I think I'm landing on the Bowser.
because someone said he was trying to pay off his debt,
Yeah, he owes
Because
Vegas.
Sure that
and
is.
then he said,
He owes Vegas.
He said, I already paid my debt off.
Yeah,
He said it during one of his concerts
they
recently.
wouldn't let him out of Las
Vegas.
Vegas because
Well, no, he still has like
he owed too much money.
3 to 5 to 10 shows in Vegas this year.
Oh, he said, but he already paid. He said he finished paying off his debt.
I don't know.
He said that at a concert. He said, "Debt? I don't know them casinos no more money." Oh,
Nah, he definitely owes the money.
J. Cole's gonna be here.
You know he's Hispanic. He's Mexican. I always.
Filipino.
No, he's Mexican.
Bruno Mars?
He's Filipino.
He's Filipino.
Yes.
I thought he was Mexican.
Yeah, y'all think y'all claiming everybody. You know, Bad Bunny's Filipino too.
Bad Bunny's Puerto Rican.
He's Filipino.
He's Filipino.
Bullshit.
Ah! Got him!
Oh,
No, Bad Bunny.
Bunny's Puerto Rican.
Bad Bunny's
Yeah,
Puerto
that's what I said.
Yeah, but I was.
No.
Never
Oh,
mind.
that's what.
Oh.
No, but Bruno Mars is
Bruno Mars
Filipino.
is Filipino.
He's Filipino and Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He thought he was Mexican.
Why? Because his name was Peter Hernandez?
Pedro Hernandez.
Yeah.
Yes, because
Most
most Filipinos actually,
Latino
like, you guys, Mexican and Filipinos have like very similar names.
That's because the colonizers, man.
Yeah.
Colonizers were getting
It
busy.
was what?
Because I had some Filipino friends and they were like, I'm like, oh, I thought you was Mexican because your last name. They were like,
Oh,
no.
the Strokes are gonna be in Charlotte.
That would be a good
The
concert.
day before my birthday.
I tried, but you see, it's hard to explain.
Look, if I can't afford the Chris Brown tickets, Ari, can we go to something else? There was something at the True Lion that I think I want. Was it Evanescence? Ooh. Before I decided, no.
You gotta see Gabriel and Joyce.
Oh!
I see him. He's funny.
She needed 10 and got it.
With George
Oh,
Lopez.
good job.
Fuck
What
George
about
Lopez.
Kid Rock on the Freedom Tour?
If you don't shut that unseasoned shit up,
Not that unseasoned.
that
shit.
unseasoned ball with the ball, the bang chicken, whatever. No,
I thought you used to like him at one point.
We all
used to.
did.
We
We all
in
did.
the 90s.
Which way is the store?
Okay, so 7 away versus the other way tells you
Oh,
it's that way.
Ooh, what about Pitbull and Lil Jon?
What? Okay.
That's
That's
May.
next month. Yeah. We can't even go. 'Cause we're supposed to be
I've already
leaving.
seen Pitbull. I ain't seen No John, but I seen Pitbull.
Where is it at?
You could go to Monday
Huh?
Night Raw in May.
Where is it at?
I already got
I
those
guess what
tickets.
used to be the
Floor seats, baby.
Remember
300
when we go
plus.
see 30 Seconds to Mars?
Oh, they renamed that?
Yeah.
It ain't Coastal Credit Union?
It's True Lion Amphitheater,
Oh.
I think.
What?
Unless that's a different one.
What we talking about?
The theater, what's the name of the venue that used to be?
In Raleigh?
No, in Charlotte.
Spectrum.
It was PNC.
PNC.
Oh, PNC Arena.
Yeah.
No, PNC was
True Lion
Raleigh.
No, there's a PNC in Charlotte as well.
No, that's Spectrum.
now. It was the
No.
the pavilion.
Spectrum is in Charlotte. Yes, but that's the actual place where the sports are.
No.
The amphitheater in Charlotte is PNC.
Oh,
It was
okay.
PNC. Now
You're
it's
right.
True
You're
Lion.
right. You're right. You're right.
She's saying it's renamed.
They renamed it to True Lion.
Okay.
Wait, does that say train?
I got tickets to train already.
No, thank you.
No drops of Jupiter in her.
It'd be
In her mouth?
like the 4th or 5th time I see them. They're fun. They're
He
putting on a
just
good
seems like a
show.
pretentious asshole, and I can't stand looking at him.
Ooh, not the Pussycat Dolls coming to the amphitheater.
Are any of
I'd
them
rather see them in a
Australian?
closed venue.
Huh?
I'd rather see them in a closed venue. with
Are any of them Australian?
Uh,
Nobody knows.
Mm, there's one, yeah.
no,
Huh.
I think there was one, but she's still in the group because now I think it's just 3 of them.
Really? Because there was like 5 or 6 of them.
No, it used to be like 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah.
And
The
one-
blonde short-haired one was the prettiest one for
But Nicole, you
me.
know,
Nicole was in.
but you know, she wants to be the center of attention, so
She is Hispanic.
So she
dated the lead singer of
even though her
311.
last name is Scherzinger.
Sure. So what?
Got your water.
Scherzinger. You don't go Scherzinger and be like, "Ooh, girl, are you Hispanic?" No. Like, where you get that from?
Who'd you marry?
Yeah.
No.
Who'd your mom marry?
Who'd your mom marry? Ooh, Hillary Duff.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
And Jill Scott.
That's the day after. Wait, what?
Jill Scott.
Where's Jill Scott?
There's Anthony.
And Deepak.
Anthony something.
Where's that at?
Anthony Hamilton is touring. Can't remember
With
who.
Fantasia.
That's who it is.
I think they're here. I'm sad.
They gotta come here then.
I really want to see Fantasia because I love Fantasia.
Sled to the edge.
Hamilton.
I loved her.
Somebody text sled to the edge.
I loved her from the moment before she even won American Idol. I loved her from her.
I don't care for her style.
I love her.
Her voice is she's like Macy Gray.
I tried to say goodbye and I choked. Yeah!
I need to find out if she wrote that song or just performed it.
Who?
Macy Gray?
Yeah.
I think she wrote that one. But she said she was so good herself too. She said she's on with stuff. Oh, Wu-Tang? Wait. Is this
Wu-Tang is supposed to be touring it.
Wait, is this not a cover band? Is it really Wu-Tang Forever?
No. I can't remember. I had seen that one. I think it was a cover band. Or a cover group.
Way too early.
Damn, Yoshi.
Because they have a Red Hot Chili Pepper tour or cover band touring as well. Not So Chili Pepper, some shit like that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Wow.
Cover band.
Ooh. Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie?
That'd be good if
My
you're
teenage
really into
self
it.
would love that.
So that'd be good if you're really into it. But I only know like 3 songs between.
New turn.
Really? That's it?
That's it?
I mean, I could see if you said Rob Zombie, you only know 3 songs. But with
no.
Marilyn Manson, you should know like 2.
Manson, I know,
So it should
I
be
know
like
2.
5 songs.
And then Rob only know 1. Which
You only know Dragula?
Dragula.
What about Living Dead Girl? Super Beast?
Electric Head.
Yeah. Or Edge's theme song? You know that.
We are the stars.
You know Dope Show?
You
Dope Show, Beautiful People.
Yeah, and then Tainted Love.
Yeah.
What's it? It's a cover.
I said the other day that he did a cover. And then he did.
He's got the song with Rick Ross that he opens with. And he burns the Bible, rips it in half.
I'd go see Marilyn Manson over Kid Rock. Any day.
Yeah, unfortunately, I still would.
Ooh, what about Toto?
I'd show up late and then see that last song.
Just that for that one song.
Just for Africa.
But it's also Christopher Cross too.
Who's that?
Oh, sailing takes me away to where I'm going.
Do you know that?
She knows it.
Kari, do you know
Unseasoned folks know that.
Thank you, Kari.
I don't know it.
Takes me away. First of all, love this song. Even when Christopher Cross did it. And
What?
I love it even more when NSYNC remade it.
Again,
Look, I'm a full-on 80s baby. I love 80s music.
I do
Christopher
too.
Cross
But
was him back in the day. He was on every soundtrack for every romance
Look,
movie.
did you not remember the
You can go again with the buddy.
infomercials that would come on late at night?
yeah.
And it'd be like, you remember
Like
these
Soft
jams?
Yeah.
Get the set.
Most of his songs, it's like 5 cassettes.
There you go.
3 CDs. Call 1-800. Now rock.
And I would sit there and listen to that entire commercial just to sing every. I was like, I know all these songs.
Now I have enough money.
Only that much.
And he gave me extra. Okay.
Oh, because you brought a buddy.
Yeah.
Santana? Wait. Wait, that's not Carlos Santana.
I don't think so.
Okay. And the Doobie Brothers.
Well, there it is.
Oh, it is? Oh, that is Santana, isn't it?
Yeah. But you know, he doesn't sing.
Well, I know that. I love that guitar. Yes. He does sing.
He makes
that
the guitar thing.
That guitar just...
Yeah, but you know his most famous song is Rob Thomas.
Rob Thomas, yeah.
Yeah. That don't matter. I listen to them. It's like me listening to Slash.
You know what? I fell in love with his voice and the music. It's Blue October.
I don't know, fam.
Hit me.
You fell in love with his voice?
Yeah, his voice and his music.
Pause.
What? What? Did you say pause?
What?
He said he fell in love with his voice.
His beautiful voice.
Who is it again?
The lead singer of Blue October.
Why are we pausing?
I just never hear dudes say, I fell in love with another dude's voice. I just never hear that.
It's a great voice.
What's wrong with why is it? I mean, it's like...
I don't know that.
No, it's what I said that's freaking you out.
It's not freaking me out. We're just pausing.
He said I'm just pausing.
What's the song that they sing? I don't recognize
Calling You, Into the Ocean, Hate Me.
It sounds like they're a 90s band.
No, it's mid 2000s. Teens.
Let me YouTube it.
Is it on me or somebody? Oh, okay.
I've seen it
Blue
like
October with a
30
C or a K?
C. Spell it like it sounds.
I have to look them up. I'm listening to a lot of
I feel like I've heard of them.
It's good music. And I seen him do his solo book tour where he's talking about his life, drug addiction.
So it's not a band, it's one guy.
No, it's a band. It's a band, but he's toured by himself before.
Yeah, I haven't heard of them before.
Oh, she took Luigi from me.
Never heard of it.
Any of these played in Dawson Creek? You only on Nintendo.
No.
Oh, I like that.
Of course, she took Luigi from me, so I can't.
There's a song that's really good.
Hey, that worked out for him.
I Hope You're Happy.
The hell?
That's what it's called.
No. It was winter. I was like, why is he talking to me? Blue October's called what? It's so called? It's like, wait, what?
I Hope You're Happy.
And that's by Blue October?
This is fun.
That's I Hope You're Happy.
I remember, only 20 seconds.
I don't know that song.
I don't know that song, but I like it. Okay.
I took a
Oh,
buddy of mine who had never heard him.
Huh?
I took a buddy of mine who had never heard him before, and I made him a fan. Like, after listening to the whole set.
Kurt, didn't you go to someone that you had never heard of, and now you listen to them?
Chevelle.
You told me you liked them. That's the that was a birthday gift. You told me you like them.
I do like them.
But she said you never heard of them before.
No, I've heard of them before. They sing the red.
No, before you heard of them before you went. You never played it. I hear a lot of Sleep Token, Polyphia, whatever.
It's on you.
Minigame.
No, but he has a really nice voice, and I think they're touring again in October, somewhere around there. Yeah, they'll be in Charlotte at the Fillmore.
Chicago and Sticks.
That's old. That's 70s.
And 80s. I still like you. Look, I like.
At this point, these dudes are like 60s, 70s already.
And I don't care. I love them.
There's only one dude I can vouch for that still has a great voice and is in like close to 70. And that's Sting.
I think I saw that he was on tour as well.
Yeah. Good luck trying to get tickets. They're like thousands of dollars. Because he's touring in Raleigh, and the cheapest ticket that's still available, I think it's like 400 or something. It's at the Red Hat Amphitheater.
So he is doing an amphitheater.
I mean, technically, you could show up.
Hey, we barely beat him though.
You could show up and park at the parking lot right across the street.
I saw where he hit the wrong one, and that slowed him down.
You could hear the whole.
That's probably why we beat him.
The whole set and not pay anything. You won't see him, but.
No, I want to see him. Well, I would go see Tim McGraw too.
Yeah, enjoy that while it
Tim
lasts.
McGraw's awesome.
I love Tim McGraw.
Have you seen him live?
No, I have not.
He puts on a good show.
Tim and Faith. Give me Tim and Faith.
I haven't seen Faith.
My Yoshi popcorn was supposed to show up today and did not. I'm pissed about that.
The tickets at this. I'm
Is
looking at
Shania
the right
Twain
tour.
supposed to tour too?
Huh?
I think Shania Twain's going to be touring.
I think she is touring. Well, the tickets at the Charlotte True Lion Amphitheater.
For Tim McGraw?
For
Tim McGraw is dead.
For who?
Excuse me?
No, I'm sorry. Toby Keith is dead.
For who?
If you are Tim McGraw, like
it's like $80.
For Sting?
Yeah.
How much is it?
That's on a Tuesday, isn't it?
It's on a Monday.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Is that what you said this Tuesday?
It's not Raw, you know.
It's better. It's actually a good show.
Whatever, hater.
He actually performed.
He does put on a good show, though.
I mean, I can still probably get it. Evanescence. Let me check how much. Are you sitting on the lawn or are you sitting in?
I'm saying it's in section 4.
Okay. Because
I'll tell you exactly what it is. Because I got 2 tickets for cheap.
they still have some seats in like section 3 for like 194. Section 4, they still got tickets for like $55.
Yeah.
Oh, I can still go.
Oh no.
Oh no, what?
Which one did I say?
Evanescence. Section
No,
4.
Evanescence. I got lawn seats. Sorry.
Oh,
I was thinking something else.
you got lawn for Evanescence?
I got lawn for Evanescence because I got those for $60.
Lawn?
Yeah. So
We
like
got seats for 55.
30,
Uh-huh.
and then like an extra 12 for the lawn chair.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm a little on the... Are you okay? What happened?
So Kari was already hit with creepy dice,
Oh.
and then she put a triple on us. So I don't know
Oh.
if that does anything to him other than what he already had.
I don't know. I'm really thinking about Evanescence, but I gotta send the seats because, I don't do well on the lawn.
That's why you get the lawn chair.
You can't anymore. You have to rent their lawn chair.
Yeah, it's $12 when you get the ticket.
I just like to
The Gorillas are gonna be in Charlotte.
Wait, what?
The Gorillas.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
December 23rd.
But it kind of loses its
But because they're a cartoon.
because they're cartoon.
Like I don't
No, if Dell isn't coming, I'm not going.
But
Muse will be in Charlotte.
but how do they wait? But how do
That's
they?
another one
how
that
do
I-
they
I might look at that.
If it's not in the cartoon.
So they'll put a big old screen and they'll
Uh-huh.
show the cartoon characters, but you'll still see the band.
I don't want to see the band.
They're all Brazilian.
No,
I
they're
wanna see
not.
the band. That's just gonna.
The Gorillas are British.
Yeah.
No, one of the dudes is Brazilian.
Maybe one, but the lead singer is from
It's
Blur.
the dude from Blur, yeah.
Oh, that.
It's a dude from Blur.
So that's what that guy's been up to.
Yeah, gorillas.
Oh, nice. I didn't know he did that.
Wait.
Ooh, Tori Amos is gonna be in Durham.
Oh no, it's not the Madden brothers that were fighting. It was Green Day.
Green Day is fighting?
Wasn't those brothers the ones?
No, that's Oasis.
Oasis.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
I was
live
like-
fighting.
I was like, which set of twins is
They
fighting?
stay
No,
fighting.
they're not twins.
Yeah, Green Day doesn't have twins.
Brother,
No.
yeah, Green Day's not
Benji
related.
and
Benji and
Who's
I
Charlotte?
touched
No,
Charlotte.
Noel and Liam are twins. And they're brothers.
They're not twins.
Yes, they are.
No,
Are
one's
they?
older than them.
I thought
Noel
they
and
were
Liam
like-
look just alike.
Yeah,
They
but
look
I
alike,
thought
but
they
they're not
were
twins.
I thought they were okay. I
One
thought
of
they
them
were
was like
twins.
a good 2 or 3 years older.
Yeah, I thought they were like a couple of years apart.
Maybe they are. I don't know. They
Hold
look.
on.
They all the
I could
unseasons
be
look
wrong
alike.
Here. I don't know.
That's the theme.
The
Man,
sound, the
that
sound is
unseason
Liam.
has made me very racist.
Wait, which
tonight.
which was the
I
ass?
apologize.
The unseasoned.
Yeah, that has made me very racist tonight because I'm saying it so liberally and it's not right.
You gotta liberally.
I swear they look like twins to me.
I mean,
Yeah,
they
they
are,
look
but they're
exactly
brothers.
alike.
When you look at the Wonderwall video, I can't tell who's who. Now one is drinking more than the other one, and I'm like, okay.
I can tell. I mean,
You can tell when you really look at
Alright, so
them. But if you
Liam
never,
was the younger one.
Liam
Yeah.
was born in 1972 on September
Noel is older.
21st.
Yeah.
Noel was born 29 May 1967. So they're not twins.
That's 5 year difference.
So the Madden brothers.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good Charlotte. They're fraternal.
Because one.
So they're
married to
fighting?
Charlize. No, I knew the.
One,
Once I knew a
One's married
band with
to-
brothers.
One of them was with Cameron.
one,
One,
yeah,
yes, one
and
is
the other
with
one's
Cameron,
with, like,
and
Oh, I get to
Nicole
shoot.
Richie.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you said Charlize.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Cameron. They look
Charlize's
alike.
single.
I was hoping I could jump.
She forever stays single. She hasn't had a man since she left Leto.
Who?
No,
That's wrong.
that's
Oh,
wrong.
Wait, wasn't she married?
No. I was thinking about Cameron again. Because Cameron dated Tyrese for a while.
Cameron who?
Diaz.
Yes.
Cameron Diaz is married to one of the Madden
One of
brothers.
the Madden brothers.
She dated Tyrese for a while.
Okay.
When was that?
I thought she dated Jamie Foxx for a while.
She did.
Probably.
Yeah, she dated Jamie Foxx and then left him and got with one of the Madden brothers, and Jamie Foxx got with Katie
No.
Holmes.
No,
She
no,
dated
no.
Jamie.
Jamie dated
Then went,
Katie.
and then she dated Justin, which I was so.
Who?
She dated
Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake.
She dated Jamie then Justin?
That's a downgrade.
That don't sound right.
It doesn't to me
Justin,
either.
It
because
sounds like it was Justin then Jamie.
Because once you go black, you don't go back. So.
That's
but she went back. She went to Matt.
I went back.
He's close enough. Waldorf, Walderide. I'm straight up Waldorf, son. When he got the song with,
Matt Town.
when he got the blessing
I was
from
such a
Game
huge
that
good
made
Charlotte
him honorary
fan,
black.
y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. I freaking love.
Now Charlize Theron is out here saying that she is she has a discovered love of casual sex.
Hell yeah. She's come out and said before, she's like, shoot your shot. I don't care who you are, what you do.
Yeah.
But most men are too intimidated to
Looks like
come
you're
out.
waiting on Mario.
Because she probably got that herp.
So?
He says so.
So.
Gotta wrap it up. I mean, because she was with Sean Penn, so.
Was she?
Yeah.
Who was with Madonna, where he probably got it.
No, I think he had it before her.
I wouldn't put it past that.
Mario, we're waiting on you.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to confirm the stories before we get before I
into
get sued for defamation or something.
I did not say that Madonna had herpes. It was was not me.
It was allegedly.
Allegedly. Allegedly, these people dated each other. We don't actually know. Or do
I mean,
we?
we do know.
Oh, there's video of it.
There's pictures. There's videos. But, yeah, Sean Penn and Charlize Theron did date.
Well, Sean Penn was also with Scarlett Johansson.
Wow.
Was he?
Yeah. That was like short-lived, but it was like, what?
Oh my! I'm sorry.
That's probably the worst you've done.
I fucking hate this game.
I think in the beginning, the first time you played it, you did better than
I
that.
think you're right.
I just kept thinking part of the game was you just jumping out.
I can't.
I couldn't even be mad. I was like, no, that's supposed to happen.
Only one.
My brain rewired like that's what's supposed to happen. It's like
Home stretch.
Home stretch.
because it wouldn't let me make any more bullets. And I was
Yeah,
like,
you can't make any more after that. You can only go so far.
and I'm not used to that. I'm used to saying, okay, at least I've laid them out, and then eventually somebody makes the jump, and I can put
No,
one more
I
out.
can't make the jump.
So you like 3D Marios, you don't like 2D Marios, is what you're telling me.
So we're gonna do Champions Road after this, right?
No, she would not come over anymore if she had to play that. That would be entertaining for me and you, and that's it. She might go home crying after that.
What?
So at the end of Mario 3D World, one of the hardest Mario levels ever made is called Champions Road. You have to touch every flagpole with every character, get all of the stamps and the stars to unlock Champions Road. And once you get to Champions Road, it's this, I don't know, 20-minute level with no checkpoints, no power-ups.
There are 3 checkpoints.
No, there's no checkpoints in Champions Road.
There were.
No checkpoints. And I think 2 different groups of friends came over and tried to do it. And the first group of friends, after 8 hours, we couldn't do it because Paul kept dying. And then the second group of friends came over early and we got it done.
Yeah, we
But that still took a few hours. But what happened was people got better at playing it. And what happened was people were like, oh no, it's Mario, we can do this.
Mario's one of the hardest games.
Like,
to beat.
I could feel myself taking that Wii gamepad and snapping it in half.
Yes,
That's how frustrating
no.
the level was.
Not even close.
Yes.
Not even close.
But
Get the newer kid, get this generation of kids to play old games. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
No, they don't know how to do anything without a tutorial.
Tomb Raider 3. No strategy guide.
I said it's one of the hardest.
Nah, fam.
Oh.
one of.
One of? Man, we still got Mega Man and Ninja Gaiden.
Okay,
in the
it's
mix.
still one of, not the hardest, sir.
There's some horrendously tough games on Nintendo.
E.T.
That's Atari. But,
Still.
that's a bad game.
Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden is a good game. It's just hard.
Ghouls and Goblins.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Fuck that game. Fuck. I watched my uncle beat that game and I was like, bro, what are you on?
What's the other one where they turn to wolves and dragons?
Are you talking about Altered Beast? On
Altered
Genesis?
Beast.
Yeah, on Genesis.
Ultimate Beat.
That was fun though.
It was a lot of
difficult, but fun.
I'd like to have that put on the old arcade thing.
Friday the 13th.
I never played it.
I gave up.
You and your friends are dead. Your mother's a whore. Your pets are being skinned alive. Deal with it. Game over.
Yeah.
It doesn't say all of that. It just says you and your
Wait,
friends
so
are dead.
Friday the 13th, you catch us escape Jason?
Yeah.
What's I know one.
It's still 21 away.
that,
What the
that
fuck?
no matter what you do,
I thought it's
you're
a
never
yellow,
gonna win.
Stars.
Which one?
The Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail. Died of this.
I forgot she put that dice on me. That was risky. I wasn't paying attention.
Or are there still being hard games
I
on
thought that was a
Nintendo?
triple dice. I didn't realize that was.
No, it was a curse dice. The
I
purple.
only played Oregon Trail.
Have you noticed the games nowadays?
Oh, it moved right behind
are
her.
made
You.
for people to beat them.
Yes.
Old games were made
To figure out.
to figure out. Yeah.
How to win.
I mean, I'm grateful for that because the games that are hard nowadays, they're really hard.
They just take long.
Like the
That's all
Kaizo
it is.
Mario games, like, you know what you're signing up for. I saw those games and I was like, who does this? Who wants this kind of punishment?
My audience.
Are you gonna get the Ocarina of Time?
Yeah, if that's real, it's already. I'm already purchasing it.
Damn.
Yeah. It's a no-brainer. It's like no. I will just be like on vacation mode.
get it.
Like from then on, there's no human contact. It's just shit, shower, shave, and the showering might be optional. I'm not home. I've got to get to the water. The water. I've got to get to Zora's domain.
I think the water level was probably the hardest.
And what is that?
The water temple.
They're saying November.
It's pretty.
Did you play the other one, the new one?
No, I know Kari has. I didn't.
You
I was
know, the
going
one
through
where
some
you
stuff, so I
play
didn't
with
play.
as Zelda, not Link.
Oh. Alpha got me that last year. I haven't played it yet. Assuming you're talking about that one and not that horrible CDI game.
No.
I mean, I like all of it. So.
I haven't played all of them. My favorite's Link to the Past.
Yeah. I would love if they were to
That's the one that got me.
do a Dragon Quest kind of 2D, 3D. I would love if they did that for Link to the Past.
That'd be pretty dope.
But that game is just perfect as it is. That's the one Zelda game I can beat without a strategy guide.
Right?
I just remember muscle memory where everything was.
Ah,
That's Kari's fault. Got him! Not gonna lie, they had us in the first half. We got them in the second half. Damn shit, her whole face is covered in coins though.
Only 4 turns left.
Oh, I know. It's the card you just song.
So 8 was one of the numbers.
I know what the number is.
What happened?
But there's no star or anything in there yet.
No, not yet.
I don't think anybody's got punished by Bowser for anything that even be in there.
I did. At this point.
Because we've never seen anybody unlock it. For like all this time. All these Fridays. And the trick is like, oh, you gotta do a 30-turn game over here.
There you go. It shows it on that.
That's what it says online, but we've never seen the hint.
I've seen it. I saw it this game.
This game? So one of the dry bones tells you? Who tells you?
What happened?
Or the right. Ooh.
Maybe it changes.
Uh-oh.
Say it.
Star me, baby.
Lost 6 only to get 20.
Because I haven't seen the hint since the first time I saw it. But it was in the lava. And the number just showed up in the lava.
Oh.
And I was like, it can't be that effing clear. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, it really is that clear.
I try to be different women for him. Being on my hair.
Oh, yeah?
You gotta switch it up sometimes. You know?
Good.
Projects are doing a house party tour.
I liked them when they first came out. But then after a while, I was like, who are they touring with?
Nobody. They're doing house party tours, as in
Legit house party.
legit house parties.
No shit.
And they're getting people to submit their houses.
We're not about to do that. How stupid do you have to be?
Someone in Charlotte just submitted their house. He's like, this is my pool. Y'all come here. I'm not having all the... No, you can't come over
Tear
here.
up your shit. That's it. You fuck.
You know what? I should put lesbians on
That would be very funny.
there. Yes. Brendan, tell her. Tell Brendan to do it.
Did I send y'all the thing where a 91-year-old grandmother was given a welfare check because she was unresponsive? And it was because she was playing a video game?
Wow.
Like, she wasn't answering her phone at all.
So they gave her a check?
They gave her a welfare check.
So
police went to
came
the
over, knocked
house
the door, like,
looking
hey.
for her.
She was playing video games.
She was playing video games.
No.
She was trying to be the level. She's like, she was working on it, so she couldn't answer the phone.
Oh, leave me alone. Like Grandma's Boy.
Oh my gosh.
You remember Grandma?
I
there?
love that movie. It's so stupid.
They were like, yeah,
I love it.
91-year-old grandmother given after being unresponsive because they said the granddaughter called, the daughter called, she's not answering.
See, those are two things that aren't the same. Because as I walked away and heard what you said, I was like, welfare check, awesome. I was like, oh, not that kind of welfare check.
They were trying to make sure she wasn't dead. Now
Yeah.
she in there just,
No, not like welfare check like you get money. Like welfare check like are you okay and alive?
Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
like, are you alive in there, Grandma? Grandma is alive and well and trying to beat a video game.
It's like that there's I guess this is funny. The show, guy comes in and is like, is there a black person here?
Oh,
black
Harvey loves
person
that
here.
game.
Oh my
That
god.
show is so good.
So funny.
They're
Because he
black
says it
person.
just right.
What
Is there a
show?
black person here?
Chat. It's a social
Chat.
media thing.
Oh.
We're hoping it's a TV show.
I think it's a TV show.
No,
Is
it's
there a
not.
black
it's not.
person here?
It's not a TV show. It's just a bunch of skits.
Really?
What is it on?
Because they have more. They
TikTok?
have several skits.
So
Like,
what,
it's
people
like-
just go to random people's houses asking if there's a black person?
No.
It's like a.
This guy walks in an office and he's like,
Is there a black
is there a
person
black
here?
person here? And he's like, yeah.
It's a rhetorical question. No.
No.
I'll show you.
No, he's like, why do you want to know?
They're
Yeah.
like, have you seen a black
He's
person?
bringing it up right now. It's hilarious.
I watched that like 3 times first time.
What
Because I couldn't stop laughing after the end. I was like, oh
No,
my
wait.
god.
What the hell? What is it? Oh. I'm really just waiting for NSYNC to drop some tour dates. That's who I'm really
Joey
waiting
Fatone
for.
already said that it's not gonna happen.
No, yeah. You gotta watch the
World tour.
the reparations episode on Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah.
That was an episode.
I still like the skit of, yo, this is my girl. It's a girl. The girl's a man.
Oh yeah.
Because his girl was with him in prison.
Yeah. This is a men's prison. If that was a woman, she wouldn't be here. And he got
He
quiet.
said, I ain't gay. He said, y'all do it in prison. He said, nah, that's prison. You was getting that boy outside.
Yeah.
You gay.
So is Jay Uso and Cameron fighting tomorrow night?
Yeah.
It's a word. You know, so the triple
He's gonna
threat-
show up
it's
in
a
the
six-man
crowd.
tag, right?
Yeah.
It's the Usos and
Yeah.
Logan
LA
Paul.
Knight versus
Logan Paul and
Logan
ISO
Paul, ISO and Austin Theory.
The guy with too many teeth.
Austin Theory.
Yeah, when he smiles, he has too many teeth.
There's too many teeth in there.
Too many.
But hey, that's just a theory. An Austin theory. Thanks for
They're
watching.
supposed to start the show.
Oh, okay.
That's the first match of the night.
Sure as hell ain't main eventing.
Oh, wow.
Saturday.
The first match of Sunday is Lesnar versus Obafemi.
That might be like the only thing I would want to watch.
No.
Was this on Peacock too?
No.
What did they put it on?
ESPN.
ESPN Unlimited. Like you have to have that or else you can't watch it. The first hour actually of both nights will be free on ESPN if you have it.
Like ESPN Plus or?
Just regular ESPN.
Keep asking stuff.
I guess we'll be watching it at your house.
I pay because I haven't bundled with Disney Plus.
Why does this look like Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
So I paid $40.
Okay.
Because before I only paid like 20 something.
At this point, I don't know what I'm paying.
I have that. I have Stars, Apple TV, Amazon
T-Mobile
Prime,
pays for my Apple TV.
HBO Max, Paramount,
AT&T pays for my HBO Max.
My
Sling,
ex-boyfriend pays for my HBO Max.
My dad pays for my Netflix.
Netflix.
I pay for the Disney Hulu.
That's hilarious.
I pay for Disney Hulu because my
Hulu's free from T-Mobile.
well, I don't like ads.
But they're getting rid of Hulu anyway.
Yeah.
So is the Disney Plus going to be free for T-Mobile?
I have no idea. I don't even
That-
use
yeah,
the free
it's
Hulu. It
the-
keeps going
well, I don't know.
inactive.
My guess is you
Why
probably
they get rid of
change it
this?
out.
It's just gonna be under Disney Plus.
Because you could already see everything on Disney Plus. Everything that Hulu has.
I know, and then vice versa too.
Basically, the ABC shows are going to stay on Disney, and everything else that they didn't agree on, Hulu's going away.
Wait a minute, so I'm gonna watch my other shows that come on Hulu that are not ABC.
If they have the rights, though.
Oh wait, no, because now they're only really showing ABC Fox shows. And we have Peacock, which is the NBC show.
Peacock. I got Peacock bundled with Apple.
I don't have Peacock.
$10.
I don't have Netflix.
I don't pay for Apple, so.
Apple's good.
I mean, I have Apple because T-Mobile pays for it.
I watch. I keep rewatching Ted Lasso. I love that show.
I was watching Loot. I need to finish
Luke?
Loot with Maya Rudolph.
Okay.
Never heard of that.
You should watch.
And then Kari had us watching. No, well, was it my dad that had you watching it?
Let's go.
Silo.
Silo was really good.
There's that Jason Segel and Harrison Ford show. Can't remember. It's a comedy, dark comedy.
Okay.
It's supposedly already over now. They're psychiatrists. What other shit? You watch the morning show. It's alright.
I've seen clips of that. But
First couple seasons are okay, then it just kind of goes off the rails. Have you seen The Boys yet?
We're still
What'd you think?
watching it.
Forgetting I have it.
It's psychologically fucking me up every day that I'm watching it.
Invincible, did you watch the new episodes?
I'm currently looking for all my Invincible comics. I've spent a lot of days this week.
I was like,
putting them
yeah,
together.
it's taken us a bit to get through The Boys because
It's gruesome.
it's just wild.
It's got a lot of stuff going
It's
on.
Like-
so crazy.
Because sometimes when we watch TV, we're just watching to have noise in the background.
But now we gotta sit down.
That's not a show you can have on in the background because
That is
somebody's
not
like,
a show you can have on
it's like,
the
what the hell
background.
just happened and why?
Because
Here-
we'll be like,
You'll hear noises, what the fuck? And then boom!
Here's why.
dead.
Here's why it's hard for me to watch The Boys, and I'm gonna try to say this without spoilers since we're recording. When I first got saved and was in church, I couldn't read books like Preacher. Okay, so the guy who wrote The Boys also wrote Preacher. What is Preacher? Long and short, Preacher is a book about a guy unhappy about what's going on in his life, and he actually wants to kill God. he's actually traveling and meeting people who, kind of like Jesus meeting these apostles.
Yeah.
He's befriending
Is that the
certain people.
same guy?
Garth,
same show
Garth
for,
Ennis.
That was in AMC?
Yeah.
Okay.
The comic was much better than that show.
That was a good...
The
I
comic...
thought the first season was pretty
the
good.
comic, objectively, is good. Subjectively, you may or may not be interested in it depending on what your religious views are.
Yeah.
But I digress. This person doesn't like superheroes. They don't like religion. I'm not saying that makes them a bad person.
Yeah.
But
Robert
in
Kirkman?
a golden age where you lauded superheroes, here's somebody saying here's what's wrong with them and they're silly, and they're actually writing good stories about them.
Yeah.
It was great. So when you see The Boys and you're just like, these are normal people trying to kill superheroes, and then you somehow see it went on for hundreds of issues, you're like, it must be damn good. So when I watch it now, I'm like trying to look for what they do differently from the books than the comics, or the show from the comics.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, you know who is in office, and the changes that they're making are just so fucking subtle. It's like, this ain't even satire anymore.
Yeah.
The wild shit that Homelander's doing,
Yeah.
1990 or early 2000s when The Boys was in a comic form, you'd be like, holy fuck. Now I'm kind of numb to it.
Yeah.
So when I see it actually play out, I kind of feel helpless watching it happen, because it feels like it's kind of already happened, just not with somebody with a cape.
Yes.
Not with somebody with Nazi beliefs. It's just, it's a subreddit with superpowers.
Yeah. Because I was like, especially what was the homegirl character's name?
No spoilers.
No.
Storm something?
Stormfront.
Oh,
She was
like the Nazi
Wow.
website?
Yeah, she's literally named after the website.
Oh wow.
That was insane.
That was so. It was insane watching her. That was like. And I was like, Kari, I gotta take a break.
Have you seen Invincible though?
No.
That's a really good show too. Same creator.
Same creator? Okay.
No, Robert Kirkman is not the same guy who's done The Boys. Garth Ennis done Preacher, Punisher,
Who does?
and the
Who does?
Robert Kirkman.
Invincible?
Robert Kirkman does Invincible and Walking Dead.
But Kirkman has some.
Kirkman has nothing to do with The
Is he a
Boys.
producer?
Seth Rogen is the
Sir,
producer
you did
of Preacher and Invincible.
Are you sure Kirkman's not involved with?
I have every issue of
Boys?
Invincible.
I mean, not with The Boys.
Yeah, he has nothing to do with it.
Chance time.
Uh-oh. Right on, Vicky.
Thank you. All right.
Oh, yeah.
While she's knitting.
Well, I'm eating this for the knitting.
Oh, is that what we blended it on?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
okay.
definitely eating. Definitely eating tonight.
Eat that loss.
2 turns left.
There you have to common patterns.
I picked wrong. I was supposed to pick the left first, and then the right would have been giving it to whoever's left. Because she doesn't have a star, so you were already
I
eliminated.
have a star too.
Oh, you do have one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just got one.
And I.
Yep.
Yeah, go straight. You're about to get a third one.
There's no star in there.
It's not. I think that's
Wait.
Oh, shit, she's
Oh yeah, we finally saw somebody get it.
Oh yeah! Holy crap! What's happening?
What's happening? Oh, y'all open it?
Yes!
On a 10-turn game.
Good job, Vicky! Oh my god! No one's ever opened that thing I've
The
seen.
problem is because it wasn't me, I don't get the little bonus thing for it.
Aww.
See the clue again.
But it don't matter. Vicky
I
did
didn't see
it.
the clue.
It was great.
So where did y'all see the clue?
I saw it in the lava.
Oh, you mean the game doesn't do it if I get it, you get it? No.
No, because it's on my profile.
Get
So it doesn't give you credit for it when other people get it.
So I know you said you saw your 8 in the lava. Where did you see your 5?
Also in the lava.
See, we read online that the
It was the
dry bones are supposed to tell you.
Yeah.
So it's probably in the lava, like right here.
Not here. It was further back when it was zoomed all the way out.
Yeah, they keep kicking ass.
You got a star.
Dead ass.
This whole game tonight. She don't get that belt.
It was on the left side in that lava over there.
Stinky.
Mm.
Minigame.
Might as well jump off now.
Right?
Haven't played this in a while. I forgot you can jump. You can't jump on all of them.
Do you guys watch Tubi sometimes?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen this movie on Tubi? What was it called?
It was like it was the weirdest name for a film, the weirdest film I've seen in a while.
I had Kari watch something with me and I was like, Kari, look at this.
What was the synopsis?
Oh, now I remember the synopsis. It was
Is it Mary something?
it was a black heavyset girl
Huh?
who saw herself literally as a white skinny girl.
Precious?
No.
That should be funny.
It was funnier than that.
Shallow Hal too?
It
was
was
hilarious.
wild. And it's something about going to Miami.
So it was an indie film.
I think it is, but the movie was just like,
It was crazy.
it was crazy, but it was just hilarious. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, what's going on here? Because we're like, oh, look, she done woke up and she's like, thank you, Jesus. Like, it was, there was just some stuff in there that was just wrong. But it was so good. But so bad. I gotta see if I can find it. It tells it to me all the time, too. Again, I got too many recipes saved in my.
What Vicky, you're the closest again.
Vicky has won this.
Oh, no. That's not true.
Uh-oh. Get it, Vicky.
Damn, that's sad.
Ooh. Who's Bowser?
Kari.
Kari's the closest.
Oh, wow.
Knocked out.
Can't remember the girl's name.
Mario time!
Fucking kidding me, man.
Oh, Terry Joe. Terry Joe, missionary in Miami.
Use the mushroom. Use the
Missionary in
mushroom.
Miami.
Terry Joe, missionary in Miami.
What does that sound like? Leisure Larry, Hot Pursuit. Or something.
Right.
Ballad of Big Gay Tony or something.
Right.
All I need is a knife.
Oh!
Oh!
She did it.
Get it, Vicky.
Girl's kicking ass and taking names. I don't think you've ever kicked ass like that before.
Nope.
That's what I'm. Look at her. Look at.
She's trying to hold back that big old smile.
She like.
Show them pearly whites.
You got a star.
Okay.
I mean, that's right.
It's right there in front of her again.
Well, Kari's closer to that one now.
It don't matter. Vicky's always gonna get it.
I got back on my list.
It's all you, Kari.
Oh!
Hey, let's go.
The pool is going down now.
You got a star.
He really does take that ass, doesn't he? Jeez.
It's on you.
Is anybody else in that little circle area?
I don't think so.
Jamie, I think.
I think Jamie is down there still.
Yep, I am. I'm still in the Bowser space. I'm right in front of him.
Ah!
Minigame.
Ah!
Finish.
I should have chose the crane when I wasn't thinking about it.
I mean, over to all those stars and coins.
Final turn.
Oh, is it in front of her? It's yeah, she's right there.
All you need is a one.
You got a star.
Oh yeah, that's over. Unless somebody gets that chalk whistle. Or has one.
No, they're all used, but Kari does have the shop. He could possibly warp in front of that shop and get over there. Probably what the best move is.
That's all stuff to do.
Taking it from
Might as
her,
well, man.
taking it from her doesn't really do much.
Yeah.
Taking it from Jamie.
Why you gotta take it from her?
I know, right?
Well, you're playing.
Why
the
you not
win.
take it at all?
Oh, I have to take one.
He said, I got it. I'm getting
I don't want to. I'm not trying to come in fourth, so I have to take one. So I take.
Me.
So I take
I
one.
only have two, and I have the least amount of coins. What the fuck?
But if I take it from you, that keeps me from being last.
But I'm.
So he's gonna make you last.
Yeah, I mean, if I take it from
Why
Car,
not from first or second?
I mean, I could still do that. I'm just going in the order
Why
of.
can't you just take it from Bowser?
because if I get coins,
Take
I
it.
can
Take it. Yeah, take
He's
it.
gonna go right back and get another star. So yes, I could take it from him.
Take it from me, gosh.
But if I take it from you, and he goes
You
and
earned
buys.
your star.
No, I gave her one of those stars. So if I take it from her,
Damn it.
if I take it
You
from
can
her,
give me anything.
when I say her, now we're talking about Vicky now. I gave Vicky a star on the chance time earlier. If I take the star from Vicky, that makes
You'll be getting your star back?
yes. Let me finish.
That's what I'm hearing.
Let me finish. Then Kari's gonna turn around and buy a star at the last turn if he gets to
Okay.
the shop. So that still has her in front by some coins. That makes it more interesting.
Right.
But I still kind of want to take one from you.
After all that explanation, fuck you. I don't care.
So I'm gonna put it on random.
Oh, that joke
That's
is
the
so
best thing you could do.
I still took it from Vicky. So.
Did it come from her?
Mhm.
On random.
Booty, 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 rocking everywhere.
So y'all leave, and she stays here, and it's like you took it from me. It's like that was on random.
Hey, that was.
That was on random.
You should already know that I don't care.
Yeah, people don't care until they care.
No, until everybody leaves.
Sorry.
I'd be like,
You remember earlier when I whooped your ass? Yeah, that shit was nice.
Oh,
She still has a chance.
Yeah, she hits an 8. That's over.
Jeez.
Oh.
So close.
Well, Jamie has another turn that she could do it too, right?
You gotta be worried too,
We're on
because you don't
turn
want to get
10.
one of them.
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't have another turn.
Yeah, go up, go up. Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Sucks, dude.
That's bull crap.
Do it again. Do it again.
If I'd have known they were just going to do that to him, I would have just taken the star from Jamie.
That was just gonna take from Jamie.
I'll go up there. Yeah, at least get coins out of it.
Final minigame.
Remember, there's. What is it? Last time, all three of us got stars
Mm-hmm.
for the
Oh, for one.
for one. Yeah.
No one wants to do gatekeepers.
Oh, they'll say, is anybody doing gatekeeper?
Absolutely not.
If I was playing, I probably would have just pressed on.
I would just leave.
Oh, well, it's been fun, guys. It's time to go.
Welcome to another episode of Snag the Flag. I was so focused on the intro, I didn't start moving.
Jamie's killing it. Oh, no. Take that back, Kari is. Kari won. Now we can stop already. Tell him, Kari.
I want the crap out of that.
I think it's going to be one person that's been dominating.
I'll just have to see what the bonus ones are. Because what, the last game they gave everybody star but Jamie, right?
On that one.
Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah, I got the first star on the first one, and then if I had gotten the second star on the second
Yeah, that's when you got the...
then I
She
would've
only
won.
lost because I took her star at the end, and then they gave everybody star but her.
Yep, on the second one. Yeah.
Dang. That's cool.
Yeah. Are you gonna MGT it?
Yep. That's what we're doing. Let's see who wins this one. Vicky had the game dominated, and let's see what these bonus stars are going to be.
Absolute dog.
Not me.
That's...
And congrats to Alpha, who won the Mario Kart.
Oh, two people.
Hey, let's go!
So that ties me with Jamie, but I should have the coin bonus over her.
Oh, that's me. No.
It was. Oh. So I still should have stole from Jamie at the end of it.
Dang.
That puts you at 3 stars or 4 stars?
I think he had the same amount of stars as Vicky,
Yeah, Vicky
but
got
Vicky
it.
had more money.
Yeah, Vicky.
Girl power!
Yeah.
Can we get a Who Runs the World?
Girls.
Who runs the world?
You know you gotta give her the belt though, man. You gotta hand it to her.
It's
Girls.
right there.
You gotta handle the
You
belt.
gotta
I'm
hand her
recording.
the belt.
You gotta hand her the
So you need to be recording.
It's a transfer of
Well,
power.
hold it.
You need to be holding the camera.
Hold the camera.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That is not how you present
you
the belt to
gotta,
her.
you gotta get down on both
You gotta-
knees.
No, not when you lose. You need to get Jonas. Jonas can do that.
She
He said, you
won.
better get Jonas. Better call the bonus.
You better call Tyrone. But you can't use my phone.
Well, we all know I'm not the drummer. Am I? Maybe I am. But we know it's Leonard.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. We will be coming to an elementary school near you to talk to you about video games. Some of y'all will be there too. So stay tuned for more details on that.
Throw the ones up. Throw the ones up. Come on, Vicky.
We're going to end it here
She's like,
and see you in the next one.
it's me, Oos.